Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
How you doing, mate? How's your weekend, mate?
Shit. What about you, mate?
Yeah, it was great, mate. I had a great weekend, mate. Not too bad at all, mate. Yes, it was basically this whole pod. Not that they all don't all revolve around you. Let's just make this pod revolve around you.
Great.
Yeah, well, your team, which team, your FPL team, your football team, whichever one you want to get off your chest. Where do we start? Listen, I think you put the tweet out yesterday asking for questions for the show. And I had a little scan through and I was surprised how little Senor Postecoglu's name was mentioned, because I think people probably think
There's no point.
it will
You'll
get
cover
covered
it
off.
anyway.
So do you want to, like, in 30 seconds, the question is, should he go now?
Jesus. No.
Okay, there we go.
That
You heard it here first.
Purely as well because, like, what do you do? Like, where do you go? Like, if there's something lined up,
It's obvious, isn't
then
it? Big Sam.
yeah, great. If there's something lined up that they know that they want, then you'd have to probably say yeah at this point. But I don't think Tottenham are in that position, so I don't think that there's any point at this moment when Van der Ven and Romero were expecting pretty much back in full training basically today. So yeah, if they're back on Sunday, and then it's we're just revolving around a cycle at the moment, aren't we? I think the chances are he's going to get the two domestic cup games, Liverpool and Villa, and then the club will see where it's at. Then I think the club now obviously needs to be looking. That's clear at this stage.
I think more than performances on the pitch or anything like that, the body language yesterday was really damning. Like just not being able to keep his head up when answering any questions, whether it was.
But he's like that all the time anyway.
But it looked so bad. Like, it was the press conference, not after our post game interviews, the one where they sit in the room or whatever, and it just felt like, I don't watch his press conferences all the time, so maybe you're right, and what you're saying is that he can't. But it felt really defeated is the right way of looking at it, because
it should be, innit? He's
down.
probably just lost, with all due respect, and they deserved to win yesterday, Leicester. But he's just lost at home to arguably the worst team in the league. Right?
Having lost to a team that scores no goals a week earlier, Everton and stuff. So it's a bad run, bad time. It's getting to the point of inevitability, unfortunately, with the direction it's going. But
I'll sum it up like this, and I've kind of been a defender of him, that he's now in a position where he has got to do a lot of work to win my love back. So that's where it's at.
Okie dokie, you heard it here. We got it out the way within like 2 or 3 minutes. You know what James's thoughts are. We should talk about FPL each and every week. We do what we do, talk about our teams, and then we'll review all of the games from the weekend. Some interesting results and some interesting bits for FPL as well. Though we are now, James, into the first double game week of the season with game week 24. When we start talking about which players are interesting, basically it's all going to be focused around Liverpool and Everton for most people this week, I would say. Though I think a lot of people now have got their triple Liverpool already. And whether or not you want to add
I think
Everton or not.
There'll be other bits of interest. I think there'll be quite a bit of interest in Brentford this week. If you look at who they're playing.
Yeah, exactly that. We'll cover off all of those bits and pieces. Who's been putting their hand up in the air to potentially be selected. I mean, a couple of Bournemouth players in there that have been smashing through the points in the last few weeks as well, as we do.
Right, I'm going to jump in and get on with it, right?
Given the choice...
I had
a message from an unnamed content creator, who I'm not going to name because...
Can I guess who it is? If I guess one correct, will you let me have it?
No. He said, all those missed deadlines are nothing in comparison to taking a minus 56.
Listen, I never missed a deadline. Someone said that on my deadline streams. You can't give such stick anymore about missing deadlines. I didn't miss a deadline. So, yeah. You haven't missed a deadline all season, I don't think, boss. But with five free transfers, it doesn't matter now anyway, does it?
No, exactly
really?
that. Tell the world who don't listen to your stream or are not patrons, why are you not patrons, firstly? why you have just played your free hit.
So, long story cut short, which I'd recommend people listen back to the start of my Ask James stream on Friday, which many of you probably will have done. I can't bother to repeat it all again. But what happened was I basically accidentally changed my whole team on Friday morning, and submitted transfers worth -56. Cut a long story short, was then left in a position of, oh my God, I have no choice but to wildcard or free hit. um Quickly, well, I say quickly, it was kind of foggy when we did a Patreon podcast straight afterwards. I was like, I probably need to wildcard here so I can hold the free hit for 33 or 34. But ultimately it had to be free hit on just on value purposes. The amount of
Yeah,
value I was
your
going to
your
lose
team
on
value is like
players.
105 or something already. You would have
Yeah, I
lost
mean,
2-3 million, right?
because I mean, what's kind of bummed me quite a lot with the free hit here was I only had 103 million to play with, right? When my team looking in going into this week's like 106. So I couldn't have even like stayed with the same team that I had going into this week. So yeah, I had to free hit basically, and I swung it as best I could. I was going into a position where I would have had three Liverpool and three Newcastle anyway, because I'd bought Gakpo for Solanke on a Wednesday night. Obviously, that no
Yep.
longer counted. I went with the same six from Liverpool Newcastle because I believe they were the best six. So then it was just a case just throw players that could potentially have a high ceiling for the final five players. So I went for Bruggen, which I'm quite happy with the choice of that because when I heard Everton got a penalty, I thought, well, there's my chance for the massive return, right?
Hmm.
Munoz, highest XG for a defender. Went Madison and Son. Madison was a bit too sore, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
that's a bizarre one.
yeah, we'll come back onto that. And I went with Watkins.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't really have too much regrets about the decision. The two players I left out who I was really worried about were Gabriel and Mateta. There was no way I could put the double Arsenal defence in because of how I was kind of cooked for value. Gabriel and Mateta were the two I was worried about. They ended up scoring 9. I basically kind of instead went, I guess you would say, I don't know, but Munoz and Watkins maybe, I guess, kind
Yep.
of equivalent was 7.
Mm.
So, all right, fine, not lost by much. Yeah, I actually outscored the team that if I'd have picked the same 11 that I had from the previous week, that would have scored 69. Stop laughing at the back. I scored 71, but it's not the reality, is it? Because I bought Cody Gakpo on the Wednesday. So actually, if I'd not pressed the stupid buttons, I would have been in the 80s this week.
Yep.
So about 10 points down. It is what it is. I scored 71 points. So returns from Trent, Munoz, Captain Salah, Anthony Gordon, Watkins, Isak, and Cody Gakpo. I suppose at least I went with him, right? Because as I
Yeah,
said,
exactly that.
I easily could have gone with Mateta and then gone Luis Diaz in midfield. And I honestly, that nearly happened.
Mm.
So I suppose I should probably claim that as a small victory. If I'd not gone Gakpo, I'd be sitting here a bit like, what the hell, man? And I felt that. I was like, I can't not go with Gakpo ultimately. So 71. I'm now in a position where obviously I was really disappointed with what happened Friday, but now I'm quite excited about the challenge of how I'm gonna manipulate these weeks going forward, knowing that all I've got left essentially is the wild card. There is one benefit in the sense that you use the bench boost in game week 1, so I don't have to think of like all 15 doublers or anything like that. It's going to be a challenge. I'm quite interested by that, and I know it will help some people have also spunked some chips up the wall. Be like, how do I manage with this? Well, I'm going to have a go at trying to do it myself, obviously. It's disappointing because of where I am as well, right? I mean, it was a green arrow. I went from 23k to 16k, right? So we'll
Take
take
it.
it. Yeah,
Take
we'll
it.
take it.
Exactly that. And you've got now how many frees? Because you use your free, you keeps rolling, right? So you up to two
None.
or three.
None. Because I
Oh, because
used
you
them.
used the one. So
No, I
you've only got
used
one.
both of them on Saturday night, mate.
Oh, right. Okay. So you've
Uh,
already made your moves.
I had
So,
to, yeah,
yeah.
Saturday night. Um, I pretty much had to make two moves because I went Solanke to Gakpo on the Wednesday night with zero point 0.1 in the bank. Sorry, with
Mm.
nothing in the bank.
Right.
And it was zero point 0.1 difference, right? So I had to get it done on the Wednesday. That left me with zero in the bank. Obviously, now there's been price changes. I couldn't make that move anymore on Saturday night. So I need to make a second move to get on with it. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, right, what's the worst that will happen here? I had to consider if I put Gakpo in, what happened if Gakpo got injured on Wednesday night? Because I've got three Liverpool, and it's not like I can go Gakpo to, oh, what Liverpool player? So I had to decide, was I content with a -8 if that circumstance happened? And I decided that I was okay with that. That was important.
Yep.
And then it was a case of where do I find the money for the only two candidates to sell really for me were Raya or Colwell. To find money was nothing else I particularly wanted to get rid of this week, so I decided to go Raya to Pickford. The reason I decided to go that one was kind of thinking about Bournemouth potential moves in game week 25. Whereas if I just went Colwell to Mikalenko, I was going to be done for Diallo to Kluivert if that's a move I wanted to make. That I've now got 0.4 in the bank, where if I decide that's the sort of move I want to make in 25, I can breathe on it. But it's more likely I end up going Gordon to one of them Bournemouth midfielders, actually. So I obviously need to be so careful with what I do on transfers moving forward. But the team looks good for this week, right?
Pickford, so Raya to Pickford, and then what was the other move?
Solanke's Gakpo.
I thought, that was already done. Right, okay, I get it.
Well, I had to do it again, didn't I? So I mean,
is it not old? It doesn't hold, does it?
Of course not.
Yeah,
wipes out every transfer.
Yeah,
it is what it is, right?
I feel for you, man. That's so annoying.
It's no one's fault but my own, mate. So, but this week now, I'm in a good position. Pickford, Trent, Gabriel Hall, Salah, Diallo, Palmer, Gordon, Jackson, Isak, Gakpo. I've got Rodgers sitting first sub, Colwell, good fixture, second sub. The intention is to use a triple captaincy on Mo, despite the fact the chips are out the way. I think that's right. I don't think there's a definitive. There will definitely be a better one later in the season. And he's going to be captained by everybody. It's just a case of whether it's captain or triple captain. I'll say everybody. I'm sure there are a few that will punt on Gakpo or Trent, and that's absolutely reasonable if people want to do that. But
particularly if you're chasing and that's what you want to do. Yeah,
best player in the game with a double. I don't hold too much value on the triple captaincy anyway. It's difficult to foresee Mo Salah blanking in any two games. I absolutely agree that I don't think the double is good at all. You've got Bournemouth flying plus last ever Merseyside Derby at Goodison. But from a minutes perspective, you would probably expect that to be 180 for Salah, like genuinely across the two, unless he got injured in the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg against Tottenham. There's no reason to think it won't be close to that. Best player in the game, best team in the league. Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Makes sense. I'll have the captain's armband on him this week. James, I ended on 72 points. Decided very late on Friday night. I looked at just now what time I made my transfers. It was 23 past midnight to make two transfers that I was sitting on the fence on, which was João Pedro to Gakpo. The Everton home game for João Pedro, he's that player that when you look at the fixtures keeps holding you in. But I thought I've got to get it done. And in order to facilitate that move, I got rid of Gvardiol to Mikalenko, which when Gvardiol scored, I'm thinking, okay, well, the thing is his clean sheet had already been wiped out, so it wasn't too much of a problem. There's every chance I would have benched Gvardiol this week as well, so it didn't particularly matter. And the Gakpo move to the Pedro move to Gakpo obviously outweighed any loss in points defensively from Gvardiol anyway. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I had all the players that returned that everybody else did, really, James, in terms of Salah captain, Gakpo, the same triple Newcastle that you had. Everybody else that I had didn't return, bar Gabriel. And obviously you would have had Raya in goal as well, right, over Verbruggen. So my bench, James, Semenyo with 9 points, Mikalenko with 6 points. That's another double-digit haul on my bench. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of the last 7 game weeks I've had more than 15 points on my bench, which is fine, though, because it gives me good cover. The problem it gives me is that I'm now stuck in I've played around with FPL.team. I've got 3 free transfers, and I can get through the next 2 weeks without making any transfers and have a good team in all of these game weeks. It's getting a bit boring, to be honest with you. Like, I can't just keep rolling transfers, doing nothing, and just taking players off my bench and putting them into my team. So I need to do something here. And
you don't need to until you hit 5 free transfers, mate. If you're happy with your team,
I know.
This is a great time to roll. I can't stress that enough.
Bus team this week, obviously, I've got the triple Liverpool with Trent, Salah, Gakpo. Got triple Newcastle with Fulham at home. Cole Palmer's got West Ham at home. Chris Wood's got Brighton at home. Mikalenko's got the double. Flecken's got your boys, so I'm going to play him because it is at their place. And I'm playing Gabriel at home to Manchester City when I got Morgan Rogers first sub, and then Semenyo with Liverpool at home second sub. So I'm not doing anything this week, which will roll me up to 4 transfers. But I want to try and find some interesting differential places to go, like Gordon to Mbomo could be interesting. I think the Bournemouth boys are interesting, but I've already got Semenyo sitting there. So whether or not I want to add one to double up, I'm not overly sure. Moving on, Chris Wood, maybe, to find a different attacker that might give me points.
Get Calvert-Lewin.
Dried up a little bit there. Yeah, thanks.
He's injured.
Did he go off injured?
Yes.
Or did he not play? Yeah.
No, he went off injured. Get Ellerman and Dye instead.
No, I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's going to be worth it with the points. Yeah. So this week I'm just rolling through, leaving it be. Let's see where we go.
When I say it's a good time to
go crazy.
You're not going to triple captain, no?
I haven't got it, have I? I used it on Erling Haaland in Ipswich.
When I say it's a good time to roll, obviously if you're sitting there on one Liverpool player, it's not a good time to roll.
Of course.
First and foremost, sort that out. Who would you say is the best 3 Liverpool? Is it the 3 we've got?
Yeah. I think Trent and Salah for sure. Look, Diaz quiet. At any point he could go off. So I wouldn't, if you've got Diaz, you wouldn't be jumping ship anywhere. And I wouldn't particularly, if I owned Diaz and didn't own Gakpo, I wouldn't actually be crying in my cornflakes. I think at any given moment, it's just as likely that Diaz goes off than Gakpo. But Gakpo got hooked early, 65 minutes or so. So he's now scored 2 goals and assists and got a little bit of a rest. So I'm quite happy with my 3. I wouldn't swap them. But if your third asset is Diaz over Gakpo, all good.
Stick.
The people that went double defence, whether it's Alisson or Van Dijk, it's frustrating to concede a goal that late. But yeah, again, I wouldn't be looking at moving it on. So I think the third Liverpool asset really is quite a toss-up, James. But I'm happy with Gakpo, and if I was buying fresh, I'd be finding a way to make it Gakpo.
I think Gakpo, you might want to have a check, Suj, while I chat nonsense. I think he scored once away from home all season, I think, which was at West Ham. All his
West Ham.
All his big returns are at home.
Home. All his goals are at home. You're right, bar the one at the London Stadium. Ham. Yeah.
And everyone scored that day, didn't they?
Yeah,
so
it was 5-0. So yeah.
Should we talk the games?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's kick off with, no early game, but Bournemouth 5, Nottingham Forest 0. Now, in the context of how well Forest have been doing and how good Forest have been defensively, this is an outstanding result for Bournemouth, coming off the back of the away win at Newcastle. I mean, flying.
Yeah, Forest had more shots.
Did they?
Yeah.
Didn't even see on the stats that was the case.
But no one is claiming this to be a shock by any means at all in terms of what happened on the pitch. The result is obviously a shock. I don't think it's a shock that Bournemouth won. The manner of it's quite incredible. It's interesting that the Forest guys looked really lethargic defensively once the game had gone. Like once it hit 2-0, it was like heads down. It was a little things like where Morello and Milenkovic just didn't look the same as, I mean, they've been brilliant all season. Those two, I think, as good as they've been, what you had here was a scenario where they're very good penalty box defenders. They're both decent on the ball, particularly obviously Murillo. But then chasing the game, and then with all the speed Bournemouth have got, led to a combination of what happened here and White got away from them quite badly at the end. I mean, did you see Kluivert's disallowed goal? It would have been one of the goals of the season, the way they cut them open.
That would have made it 3-0.
They scored straight afterwards anyway to make it 3-0.
That's it, yeah. I remember I was looking at it. It went 3-0, went back to 2-0, and then went back to 3-0 on the app straight away pretty quickly as well. A couple of these goals obviously came quite late in the game. The last two were right. Well gone. But, I mean, I've benched Semenyo again. Benching Semenyo points seems to be the story of my January. Ouattara, again, I mean, still at 5 million. I don't know if he's had a rise since the weekend, whether or not people are steaming into that. But
it'll arrive.
In the absence of Evan Nielsen and Unal, the three in Kluivert, Ouattara, and Semenyo have been cleaning up the points and the attacking returns. Like solid.
Unbelievably. I mean, all three of them are really good options, and I wouldn't recommend against people ending up with two of them because the run after the Liverpool game is fantastic. Therefore, I don't even mind if people are in a luxury, almost like yourself, saying, well, what do I do? Like going a week early. I don't even mind. I think in your case, where you've already got Semenyo, you're not going to do that. But if people had
It'd
none
have to
and
be
like,
like Morgan Rogers to Ouattara doesn't.
yeah, but what I'm saying, if you're in a position where, say, you were going to bench Rodgers this week anyway, and you
I
know that
am.
people are chasing the value, and you know that you wanted Kluivert next, I don't mind you going early because it's
Mm.
pretty obvious that irrespective of what happens in that game, with Southampton and Wolves the following two, the investment is going to keep coming unless you're unlucky enough that one of these players got injured. So that's something for you to consider from a value perspective, maybe going early. I probably wouldn't do that myself because I'd still rather have Rodgers sitting first sub this week personally,
Yep.
particularly with João Gomez being suspended. But it's the sort of thing people can consider doing perhaps. Of the three midfielders, more returns for Kluivert following the brilliant hat trick at Newcastle. Semenyo obviously with a late goal, and we must credit it and say he passed it in, which I wanted to celebrate when I saw that because he levers everything with power. So for him to have a bit of composure and roll it in was really nice to see. That was good. Also, really like the Spinaroonie celebration afterwards. You know what a Spinaroonie is, don't you, Suj?
A Spinaroonie.
Oh, okay. And Dango Unchained, mate. Wow,
Yep.
that leap for the header. How high did he get, mate?
We can measure his standing jump. Maybe he can slam dunk.
I don't think you'd have a tape measure long enough, mate, to deal with that. You'd need a couple of meter rulers, mate, because he's probably got above 2 meters. It was ridiculous
No,
how
well,
high he
as in
got.
his total height, yeah, sure, but
Yeah,
he's not jumped 2 meters.
no, but I'm saying where his head was when he headed it, mate. He was so high up in the air. It was a little bit like that iconic Ronaldo
Mm.
header at Sampdoria. And he also could have had another goal as well on top of that. Remember, he had the goal disallowed at Newcastle when the ball very narrowly went out of play. He got the assist for Kluivert's second goal in that game, so he could have hauled 2 weeks in a row. Evan Nilsson, we don't think will be back probably till April, but it's not impossible that he made game week 29. Now, a lot of people are buying now, and their fixtures are absolutely brilliant, not just up till the blank, but afterwards, right? All the way up till probably the double in 33, and they might even double in it, right? So,
Hmm.
huge attention to be paid on these guys. The Utara problem is when Evan Nilsson might return, because you might go, oh, that's only 6 weeks away, the blank. But for those running through, you probably want it on the other side as well, and Evan Nilsson could be back in time for the blank. What I'd say is his performances have been so good and he's looked good enough in that position up front that it's probably alleviated any plans Bournemouth might have had to be, well, we're desperate to get another
Needs to
forward in
fill
because our
fill
two
fill that
forwards
hole.
are injured.
Mm.
They've just scored 9 against Newcastle and Forest, right?
Yep.
Now, there might be something in that for Utara in the sense that space, arguably a little bit better. And you go, oh no, Forest, that doesn't make sense. But what I mean is the fact they got a couple of goals ahead in this game. Admittedly, it's his he got the second, didn't he? I think, yeah, he got second, third, fourth.
Yes.
But his second goal was a headed goal. The others, he's obviously reacting onto stuff at the top end where space is a little bit more forgiving later in the games. Will he have space in these games coming up? I look at them and I think the answers are still yes. Southampton open, Wolves open, Brighton open, Tottenham open, yeah. Brentford open. Yeah, they're all absolutely fine for him. He's the one that for me, because I need to think towards 33 now, I'd be concerned about Evan Nilsson being back. So lean for me at the moment would be Kluivert. It's also worth saying they've got a lot of players obviously injured. We can write Enisu now out for the season, that's definite. Evan Nilsson, mid-March, early April, sort of roughly what we're looking at. But in terms of others coming back, I don't think that's a huge concern for the likes of Kluivert. So previously, Kluivert was very much a 60-minute man, wasn't he? It was like,
Yep.
right, 60 minutes of Kluivert with the pens versus Semenyo's getting close to 90. It's close, right? Well, now Kluivert's hitting towards the 90s mark. Kluivert is the better option than Semenyo, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to massively change. Marcus Tavernier is back, but I think what's changed is his form has gone up a way a level.
Hmm.
Where I think now it's getting to the point we can expect him to be more like an 80-minute player moving forward. That for me now gives him the advantage over Semenyo.
I would agree. The two players that were due got price rises from Bournemouth on Saturday night were Kluivert, as you mentioned, and Kirkes, who is 4.9 now. He is the fifth highest scoring defender in the game now. Jumped above Guardiola, Milenkovic, got more than Saliba, Van Dijk. He's got more points, James, than Anthony Robinson, would you believe? So I've got the exact money to go from Rico Lewis to Milos Kerkez. And Lewis is going to be on my bench this week anyway. When you're talking about going early on a player, if I see that, I'm tempted with him even just because I know the fixtures are good for a prolonged period. And unlike the attacking players, no risk of rotation with him or players coming back from injury to take his spot.
They have got a new left back in Bournemouth, Soler, who's actually on international duty at the moment. He's not a threat to his place, but he's someone else that can play there once he's back. He's at an under 20 tournament maybe for another couple of weeks or so. All I'd say is on Kirkes, because I was planning very late Saturday night because I needed to make these transfers Saturday and wanted to make sure I made the right choice. And obviously, in my plans moving forward, Bournemouth obviously feature quite a lot. As I said, the fixture 25 to 33 are unbelievable. So for me, they're as attractive to me as any team because I need to think longer term. And Kirkes initially to me was like right in my line of thought. Right? Offensive left back. We've seen more and more from him. You see the goal at Newcastle last week, and you think, "Wow, what a prospect of a potential player there." You'd be happy to play him in pretty much every game after the Liverpool game, basically, moving forward for sort of like the next 8-9 weeks. So that's great. So it'll even make people like, Fulham. I've actually got looking up to game week 32. I've actually got them bottom of my ticker. So I could see people maybe not now, but towards the blank, maybe looking at Robinson to Kirkes. But I kind of discovered something looking at them quite a bit. Kirkes isn't going to be for me, Suj.
Because
It's a bit more boring, but I think I'd more likely go Dean Howson. I think it's top enough now with Kirkes. Not to say he's a bad pick, but it's zero point 0.5 more. And that zero point 0.5 is possibly going to be quite important to me. Since Howson got in the team, when Senesi got injured, it's 10
yeah,
games ago.
yeah, game
Bournemouth,
week 14.
Bournemouth haven't lost.
You're right. And it was the week before they didn't lose either to Wolves. But yeah, they haven't lost at all.
They haven't lost since this run that he's got in the team, right? He's an outstanding young talent. Really like his partner Zabani as well. If you have a look at expected goal involvement, and I think that's a key one to look at, right? Because expected goal involvement is XG and XA. Howson comes up higher than Kirkes. Now, Kirkes has played a lot more than Howson as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk has open play threat versus Howson set play threat.
Yeah, get that. Look at some of Bournemouth's games. Southampton, Wolves, Tottenham. Howson's what? Not a threat from set play. He's a
Yeah, I'm
threat
not
from
saying
set
he is
plays.
at all. We have this dilemma with quite a lot of clubs where, I mean, we had it with Fulham where Robinson, now the gap between him and, let's say, Joachim Andersen's even bigger. Do you go with the set play threat versus the open play threat and the assists? It's definitely a consideration. I'm not struggling for money at the moment. If I was, then I think you're right in that house could potentially be that. I've also got too many good defenders: Gabriel, Trent, Lewis Hall. Mikalenko's got a few decent fixtures, including the double. I'm adding another benching headache into the mix. If I bought Kirkes, I'd really feel the pressure to play him week in, week out. Howson, I feel more comfortable maybe benching in certain weeks. So I take that point on board. I think it's a fair consideration. It gives me another 500,000 in the bank.
If they were the same price, I'd say Kirkes because it's just more fun, more exciting, and I get that. But actually, at 0.5 difference, and I think by the time I would maybe come around to wanting to buy, it's possibly going to be more than that. Yeah, I think it's more likely to be Dean Howson for me, actually, at
Any
4.4.
concerns for Forest? I mean, look, it's a bad day at the office. Chris Wood owners will be a bit annoyed, but he's just come off the back of like 8, 9, 12 since I've owned him, and then suddenly a 2 point. Well, you know what? Sometimes players don't return. Obviously Hudson-Odoi missing. I don't know how much of an impact that was on their attacking threat, but you go down 2 goals early against a good team like Bournemouth, it's going to be a tough day at the office. Their fixtures are tough now, Forest, right? So people who own Chris Wood, if there was another alternative striker option, maybe now is the time to think about it.
Well, I think if you're all sitting there with a front three at the moment that's, I don't know, hypothetically, Wood, João Pedro, Isak, and you don't have money in the bank, like, or not a lot in money in the bank, Wood to Gakpo is surely screaming at you, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah,
I think if people,
you need 500,000 or more for that move, though, James.
Yeah, but obviously, if you would João Pedro to Gakpo, you need like what 2 million, don't you? So that's all I'm trying to say from that. Yeah, I think if people are considering that move Wood to Gakpo, and that's their route to the third best Liverpool player, I think they should do it. Or I also think it should have been done last week. I don't think that's captain hindsight either. I think you're quite right what you said earlier. Most, not all, most will probably have wanted to get their third Liverpool player in last week. Some people who took minus 56s obviously had to do it again this week. If I had Wood and wanted to go to Gakpo, I really wouldn't be hesitating about it. Brighton, Fulham, Newcastle away, Arsenal, Man City, the next 5 before the blank 29. You can go Gakpo back to Wood in 29 if that's what you want to do. I think there'll be enough gain of Gakpo in between. Consider, yes, it's the 2 away games for Gakpo now, and we said, a little bit of concern. But then 3 of the next 4 are at home, which includes games against Wolves and Southampton. And you've seen the sort of haul we can put up at the weekend. So that's not to say people should definitely bin Wood. I'm just saying under that circumstance, I think people should think about it. And I get with him, his ownership is now so high, there's like a little bit of fear of cutting that off. And he's still talisman for them. And he'll get returns if people want to hold. That's absolutely fine as well. Similarly with the defensive guys, right? If you're on Olaina since he was 4.5, right? I don't think it's time to panic. But if you're in a position of playing him regularly across many of the forthcoming weeks, I think you want to look at that again. That might have dented a little bit of confidence. But Newcastle got twatted by Bournemouth and obviously recovered this week. They've got Brighton next. Brighton's results against low block teams, and to be honest, it's what Forest still are, right, has not been good this year. I think we spoke about this on COTC last week about the impact of Hudson-Odoi missing and the impact that would have on the likes of Elanga. Hudson-Odoi was supposedly close for the weekend, so he might be back next week. So I don't think it's a case of panicking about that. Investing in Forest new should not be happening at this time. That's what I would say.
For me, there's a beautiful daisy chain that I'm looking at, which means this week, if I was to go from Wood to Visser, I miss Wood's difficult fixtures. I can have 4 Visser fixtures: Spurs, West Ham, Leicester, Everton, and then daisy chain in game week 29 to Cunha. Cunha's got Villa, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Fulham, 4 tough fixtures, but then he has Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich. Let's just chuck in Spurs in there because I can kick you while you're down for Cunha. So Wood to Visser for 4 to Cunha, I quite like. And I mean, Visser's ownership is at 10%. It's obviously low. He's been playing the 90 minutes recently. I quite like that as something different over Wood. So I'm considering that as a daisy chain.
The only thing I'd say about that daisy chain, the 2 players you mentioned buying might not be with their clubs this time next week.
Well, none of this will happen before the end of the week, James. So, yeah, of course, that's a caveat for a lot.
Oh, I think if you went to go Wood to Visser,
I think Visser is Visser a transfer for Visser on the cards?
But we know Nottingham Forest bid for him.
Oh, did they? I hadn't seen that news, mate.
Transfer window closes next Monday.
Oh, wow.
So although, like with Visser, completely get there'd be massive appeal to buy him this week, I'd be a little bit wary of that.
Yeah,
I don't see that move happening, but it's like, oh, okay, why did that happen?
I can wait till the transfer window closes before making my moves. We've got no Friday night games. And it's a Friday night deadline for the transfer window.
No, it's Monday.
Is it next Monday?
Transfer deadline is next Monday.
I thought it was always the end of January.
It's the 3rd. It's next Monday.
Why did they do this?
To fuck you about, mate.
Okay.
I would say 95% Johan Visser will be a Brentford player. But, Is there a chance? We know Nottingham Forest are interested. We know Nottingham Forest are interested in Cunha, right? We know Nottingham Forest are trying to buy some forward.
Mm,
That's clear. I'd just be a little
yeah.
bit wary
Wait.
of that. Yeah.
Brighton nil, Everton one. Excuse me. David Moyes back with the West Ham special. There was a period in his last season with us, James,
The
where
West Ham
yeah,
special.
every time we had less than 30% possession, we won, and every time we had more than 30% possession, we drew or lost. Now, admittedly, Everton had 31% possession in this game, James. But that's exactly what happened every time we played under Moyes during that period. Don't have the ball, we'll do all right. Give us the football, we're rubbish. And James, Everton didn't have the ball for more than 31% of this game, but they had the only big chance in the game. They scored one of their three shots, and that's it. Lights out, go home, taking the points.
First question.
Yes.
What do you think about the idea of Moyes as assistant manager?
Um,
Arse
having
man. Sorry for people who don't know we're talking about fantasy here.
having missed the 19 pointer, I would be feel like I'm chasing points, James. Um, Look, it's just one against Spurs and one against Brighton. You can't deny that. I would just feel awful having missed the 19 pointer to chase it, to be honest with you. I can't go slot because I've got triple Liverpool, and many people in that situation where they've got triple Liverpool. What price is Moyes as well? 500,000.
It's 0.5. So I
Yeah,
think
which
it
is
falls,
cheap, right?
yeah,
So
it
if I,
falls in.
for example, if I went from Rico Lewis to Howson, I've got exactly 0.5.
Yeah, I think it falls into a line with people like, oh, I can probably afford to just do that. Whereas just slipping slot in, or maybe you've got free Liverpool. I get it. It's like you don't want free Everton, do you? I don't think.
No, no,
I mean,
no.
if I was free hitting this week, would I possibly go something like Mikalenko, Pickford, and Dye? Yeah, I probably would, but otherwise I don't want free Everton. So I can see that appeal. The reason I don't like it is that more and more people are asking about this. As it stands, obviously you'd have four fixtures on Moyes if you held for the three games, and you don't have to hold, you can move it on. But the three games that might feel attractive, Leicester, Palace, United, none of them even offer bonus at the moment.
Yeah, yeah,
So if I'm having an assistant manager in games that's not going to get me bonus, I'm not bloody picking Everton.
yeah, yeah.
I'm picking, one of the top teams. If I'm not going for bonus, I'm picking one of the top managers. I'm not going for Everton. Oh, Everton going to move four times. I'm not saying they can't, right? But also, they're not going to score shitloads to
No.
get you like goal bonus. Yes, there might be some clean sheets in there and stuff. But no, I don't really get that one at all, actually. If Palace and United were like eighth and ninth, I'd be like, okay, cool. Leicester and then three bonus games. Sure. I don't see that personally.
Yeah, and there's every chance. I mean, there's every chance that they could be 5 points if the table, if it all plays out as you'd want it in game week 24. But you wouldn't want to make that decision risking that. For me,
Well,
no,
let's look at this logically, right? Manchester United are 12th. They're 2 points behind Brentford. Do you think Man United are going to be above Brentford after this weekend?
based on who Brentford are playing, of course
No,
not.
is the answer, isn't it? Right? Let's
Yeah,
be honest, even if it's a draw, United can't go above Brentford this week because Brentford's goal difference is much better. Now, then look who United are playing the following week, and maybe they will jump above Brentford. But then you look who Brentford are playing, that's your team, Suj, and I think, no, actually, Brentford probably stay above them over the
agreed.
next couple. There's not a reason to think United probably jump them by the time that fixture comes around. It's unlikely that Palace, I mean, Palace is 25, so Palace can't jump above anyway. Everton can't drop. It's 6 points clear of Leicester, so they can't drop over this period. So I really don't see that one at all, personally.
What's your thoughts on the best three Everton? I know three is still a stretch, but if you had to, I mean, Pickford and Mikalenko probably defensively offer decent options. Now that Calvert-Lewin's out and Dye would be third, is there anybody else that offers any value? Branthwaite, Tarkowski, would you even go there for
I
their?
think Sean's coming on Clash of Correspondence. It'll be on tomorrow with Dan. We're going to preview the Merseyside Derby and obviously the double game week. I think, judging by a tweet I saw from Sean last week, I think he's going to tip up Jake O'Brien
Okay,
at 4.5 because it'll be a better aerial threat he'll go forward from set plays and stuff like that, right? They have over the last two games obviously kind of dropped Lindstrom back into this deeper role without the ball to funnel them into a back five, and they're also building with a back three in possession. So Mikolenko, in terms of open play, is actually getting a little bit further forward, and I would go there personally on 4.4, but I wouldn't expect much from it. I think all in Pickford is the best asset there
Yeah.
because of the ability to haul pretty much at any point. It's worth saying, only 5 pointer at the weekend, despite the clean sheet, and that's because he got booked again. He's had 6 yellow cards this season, Pickford,
Oh wow.
which isn't particularly great. But yeah, that's where I would go. I mean, Pickford, Mikolenko, and just by default now, it's Sundai, isn't it?
Mm.
Calvert-Lewin did his hamstring, which is a real shame for him because he played well against my team last week. Obviously scored the goal, so that was kind of the duck was over and done with. And he went up for a header and he pulled his hamstring as he went to do it. You could see, right, I know he's orange flagged at the moment, guys. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I'm near certain
He's not
going
going
to
to play.
in the double game week. So if you're on Calvert-Lewin, and there's certainly a few that have taken that gamble, you just buy and die here by default, are you? I think you probably are.
I would say yes. Yeah. I'm just
He'll
thinking, where else would you go in terms of forwards? If you've
go
got your triple
Beto.
Liverpool, yeah. No.
It's
No, I think
4.9
Ndai.
Beto.
I think Ndai is a better option.
Yeah, I would definitely pay the zero point 0.5 extra for Ndai under that circumstance. He's obviously on the pens. We know that. We don't know if we would have taken it at the weekend if Calvert-Lewin had stayed on, but he's on the pens. He's scored. So he's certainly be on them again. He's a really good player. He took the goal really well against my team the week before. So he's obviously scored in a couple of consecutive games. And he, with McNeil out, Calvert-Lewin out, takes on massive kind of talisman status, you would think, for Everton, both from fantasy purposes and just general play over the next couple of weeks. I also sense that teams might be aware of that, though, and they'll target stopping him as a priority. Also, bear in mind, this is something else to factor in for Everton, and I don't think this particularly rates to Ndai because he's staying in the team anyway. But under the circumstance, Everton are probably going to do some business in this window. And I wouldn't rule out the prospect, although I would gamble Mikolenko. You've gone there, haven't you?
Yep.
I don't think it's impossible that they would buy a left back. But that's
Whether or
still
not
the
they
one I'd
then,
go to.
yeah, whether or not they then get integrated
I,
into the team.
I think because of the McNeil and the Calvert-Lewin issues now, we don't know how bad Calvert-Lewin is, but they can't rush him back, right? Because of his
Yeah.
historicals. Although, do you know what? Actually, he's largely been fit this year. The games he's missed has been like, oh, little knock, little knock, little knock, rather than like an actual bad injury. This is probably the first bad injury I think he's had for quite a while. You would think that they would be focusing on getting offensive players in. It's not like Ashley Young can't cover at left back. They also lost Oral Mangala at the weekend. Everton finished with 10 men because he couldn't continue. So he's probably out. The good news on that is James Garner came on as a substitute during the game, and that's perfect timing. I really like James Garner. So James Garner will probably come in place of Mangala, presuming he's out for a little while. Gay and Mangala had been striking up quite a decent understanding and relationship, I think, in midfield. Timo Robenham's also quite close to returning as well. So I would think, yes, they could invest maybe in the left back, but you would think Everton probably wants to do some business offensively over the next week or so. I don't think that will impact on Dyer's minutes. But anybody who's thinking like, oh, Lindstrom or Beto or stuff like this, I'd really, Lindstrom's like 5.0. Cool. We started the last couple. I'll not be doing that personally. And it does still appeal because it's Leicester first, right?
Yep. That's the game that I want to get my point. If I don't get anything in the Leicester game, I'm going to be sitting through the Liverpool game thinking, cursing them. But you never
And
know. Like this whole last game at Goodison against you in the derby, I do think there's something to be said for that.
And the fixtures up to the blank, including the blank against West Ham in 29, they are good.
Yeah, they are. You're right.
If you had to play an Ndai or Mikolenko in all of these, I think it's fine. That's the part of the decision I took with Pickford was, right, am I okay with this? Not so happy with kind of 30 onwards because after the blank, it's worth saying it's Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest. And then I think Chelsea maybe. Like it's rough for them straight after the blank. But up to it, he's pretty good. For Brighton, just tag this one onto another of kind of really disappointing results in games
They've
you'd expect
got
them to do well in this year.
their fixtures now, bar the Southampton game,
It's
aren't
not good.
great.
No.
Forest, Chelsea, then they got a good one, but then Bournemouth, Fulham, we know what they're like. City, Villa straight after. Like if you're on a Brighton asset, you know, if you're really going to hold out João Pedro for another couple of weeks just for the Southampton game, you're blind to potential points
Yeah, I wouldn't.
that are
I
going to
would
be
sell.
elsewhere. I think it's
All
hard to
I'd say
move
is I had a few people asking me about wanting to go Gakpo on my deadline stream on Saturday, and they were asking me about selling João Pedro or Wood. Now,
on.
the comment was very much that, like, obviously you didn't really want to sell João Pedro before Everton. I mean, you did really well making that choice, actually, and been brave enough to do it. But what I
I'm not
said
going to
was,
lie, James. I'd had 2 glasses of wine at midnight, and I thought, screw it,
okay,
let's
so
do
you
it.
got a bit of Dutch courage. Fair
Yeah,
enough,
yeah.
mate. Do we need to speak about your drink problems or not?
No,
You're okay. Okay, fine.
yeah.
What I said to people is, I think if they went Gakpo from Wood and was stuck with João Pedro, they would inevitably land here and look at Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
Now they're not looking at Calvert-Lewin because he's injured, but they're now inevitably looking at Ndiaye, aren't they?
No, yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it, but I haven't seen enough of across the 2 games so far to make me think I desperately want an Everton offensive player. There is no temptation for me to put any of them in, but I think there'll be people with the likes of João Pedro are specifically, going to look at Ndiaye and probably will go and buy him. I think any Brighton you've got really is probably a sell. Let's not say, Verbruggen you have to get rid of. No, not at all. But yeah, I would not be investing in them at the moment.
Liverpool 4, Ipswich 1. I mean, business as usual for Liverpool. Cruising, they played really well. Stupid consolation goal at the end to wipe out any clean sheet points, but is what it is. Just the fact that Trent picked up the assist kind of makes it forgivable that I haven't got these clean sheet points off him, because there's still a return in there, although that he could have hauled double digits again. I think Liverpool purring at the moment, and you'd expect them to do well in the double. Ipswich sliding down the table.
Just a quick note on Ipswich first. Yeah, it's in a bad place. Huge game for them this weekend against Southampton. They've got to win it. I mean, everyone's kind of thinking that whenever they play Southampton at the moment. Yeah, the next 2 home games are going to be definitive for Ipswich. Southampton at home and then Tottenham at home. 2 after, right? I mean, realistically, they probably need to be targeting 6 points across those 2 games.
Yeah, the fact that Everton have now opened up like quite a sizable gap.
But I mean, Wolves and Leicester are close, right?
Yeah,
but
they're only 0 and 1 points ahead. But
I spoke about is kind of getting to the end of the Southampton game and Ipswich probably needing to be above Wolves. Wolves, as kind of you've touched on, right? Once you hit 27, 28, Wolves have an unbelievable run of fixtures where you would expect them to pick up points, and Ipswich's gets rougher. Like Ipswich can waste a little more time here with their home results. Those next 2 at home, absolutely massive. From a fantasy perspective, not looking. And I'd also note on them as well, because I've been starting looking further ahead, Suj, with my plan in now. I've been kind of tracking yellow cards again. Liam Delap's up to 8,
Okay.
And any chance he'd get booked in the next 2? That'd be lovely. I wouldn't be
need to
looking
get
at
booked
any.
in both of them, wouldn't he?
I wouldn't be looking at any Ipswich investment, but if you're obviously struggling for the money, Greaves has scored at the weekend against Liverpool, as he probably should have done in game week 1, and that's why people got very interested in him. He is a threat from set plays, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility that they change again because they got absolutely roasted at the weekend. I think the safest one for minutes that's cheap will be either O'Shea or Twanzebe. Actually, Twanzebe's had injury problems. Obviously, come back at the weekend. Wes Burns probably ACL, possibly might have been during the first half of the game. I watched all of this back on Saturday night, Such. It was the game that Sky replayed, and it's pretty much, to be honest, the only game of football I watched this weekend. And I watched 5 that I really enjoyed, and even that was despite the fact I knew what was happening. Liverpool were very, very good. Trent. You know how bad Trent was against Man United, and you know what he can be.
Yep.
Right. We'll flip out all the bad, and this was the complete opposite of him. He was a joke.
There's only a week left for him to get his move to Real Madrid. He's got to put in a performance to put him in the shop window again.
he's not going now, is he?
Nah,
To the extent,
but
I've
he
been
will in the
saying
summer.
he ain't worth the money.
Mm.
Right. When you watch that, like, oh my God, he should be 8.5 million again.
Mm.
He honestly, Suj, could have racked up a monster return here. He's hit the post. He's had another one from miles out that's gone just wide. And it's a joke of a shot. He's completely beat the keeper from like 35 yards. He's put countless ones on a plate, brilliant crossing. He was moving into central areas and looking really dangerous. He was just allowed to go wherever he wanted. Quite often, Liverpool were camped around the edge of Ipswich's penalty area. 1 minute, he'd be crossing it from the flank. The next minute, he's running the game like a six in centre midfield. He was absolutely powering. Yeah, if I was free hitting this week, I'd definitely find in the extra to make sure he went in. That's not to say people should move from Van Dijk to Trent or Canarse to Trent. No, I don't think so. But I would, here at this moment, right now going into the double, yeah, find the extra for him if you haven't made that choice yet, would be the recommendation. Gakpo, the beauty with Gakpo is, and obviously this week I'm thinking one-off game against Ipswich. I know he's going to play wide. Diaz going to play through the middle. And I think just on a one-off game, this is surely close.
Yep.
Diaz XG from the game 0. Now,
Oh,
again,
wow.
I don't think that Liverpool Diaz owners should be like tearing up their team to flip Diaz to Gakpo. Remember what we said about the away returns for Gakpo, especially so far this season. But whoever plays the 9 role is drawn towards the ball quite a lot. And the one thing you'd have to say about Gakpo is, look at where he scored his 2 goals from this weekend. He's ended up right between the posts, scoring the 2 goals, despite the fact he's playing as the left winger, right? So it's not restricting him from, he's hugging the, like you watch Sun sometimes, or I watch him a lot, and it feels like he's holding the touchline. When the ball hits the right hand side, it helps that you trust the delivery quite a lot. By the way, It's not like Pedro Porro can't deliver for us, he can. But Gakpo, he just gets off that line. They get Robertson higher and he gets into the box. There's no stopping him from doing that. And he does it over and over again.
It's more an inside forward than a winger, you'd kind of say.
He's now, it dawned on me watching the game Saturday night that what Arne Slot must have thought of him when he turned up at the club was what we saw for him with Netherlands last summer, where I think a lot of us were thinking, he looks great on the left. Why have we not really seen it at Liverpool? And I think Arne Slot probably already had that judgment that that's what ideally he probably wanted Cody Gakpo to be. It wasn't rushed because Luis Diaz obviously started the season unbelievably well. But Gakpo now, it's kind of first choice in there now. Jota, we're not expecting back during this week. No. I think, by the way the spacing is Saturday Bournemouth, Thursday Tottenham, Sunday Plymouth, big rotation, and then Wednesday Everton, and then importantly afterwards, Sunday Wolves, and then a free midweek. I don't think there's any reason why Liverpool don't go really close to their strongest team in the 3 league games across 24-25. Now, there are aspects about that we would have doubts about, like Tsimikas versus Robertson. At the moment, really feels like it could be either way round. Other than that, I think the rest of the 10 we know.
I would say so, yeah.
It doesn't mean Curtis Jones missed out, for example, for injury at the weekend. It doesn't mean a Jones wouldn't come in for a game for Szoboszlai. But I think other than left back at the moment, we could look at the other 10 and say that's their team.
First choice.
As it stands. Lots of people asking me about Szoboszlai before the weekend. And obviously he scored a terrific goal. I'm not keen on it.
He's expensive for what he is versus the price jump to the others. I just think he's too expensive.
I would rather find a 1.2 million more for Diaz still, despite the fact Szoboszlai scored at the weekend. McAllister,
he needs to be at 5.5 for me to be interested in Szoboszlai. I think at 6 point something, I don't like it. It's too much money for your second tier.
If Szoboszlai was out and people had a money problem and Jones was playing there and Jones is only 5.3, that'd be interesting.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
If Szoboszlai was 5.3, I'd be like, yeah, okay. If this fixes your problem and then you want to chain it onto Dango, that worked, didn't it? Then yeah, fine. But it would be a no for me. Trent, Salah, Gakpo. I think if you were free hitting, that's the free. That's the best free. It's also the most expensive free, but I think that's the right play.
Well, it's the best team. So what do you expect when you get to the best
offensive
team? Yeah. Southampton 1, Newcastle 3. Early scare with Southampton going behind. That's Lewis Hall points out the window, but I'll accept that. Another 2 goals for Isak James. He still hasn't scored as many goals in the league this year as Erling Haaland. It feels like Isak's been on an absolute tear, and yet Haaland still somehow has more goals than him in the league this year. He's just bonkers.
He has got more
To
goals
think,
than Southampton, though.
wow, how many have they scored this season?
16.
And now Isak's up to 17, Haaland on 18. Yeah, it was nice to get a Gordon return as well for Newcastle. They racked up, I mean, there was a penalty in there, but they racked up an XG of 3 in the game as well. Like, pretty dominant. I think I'm pretty sure it was 6 big chances that they had in the game. You maybe slight concern after the Bournemouth game. Are they going to have a wobble? Southampton are probably the kindest opposition to have to come out of to get yourself into form again. The Fulham at home game, I don't think it'll be easy. Like, I'm not thinking Newcastle are going to rout that, but because it's St James's Park, home advantage, I think they probably will be able to get a win, but something like a 2-1 or something. I'm happy to play all 3 Newcastle assets in that Fulham at home game, but I don't think it's the greatest fixture that they could have by any stretch.
It's more the point for people. How do you feel about having your 3 Newcastle for City away in 25, for Liverpool away in 27, and then obviously if they do the business against Arsenal, the blank in 29?
It's time to maybe
come off a bit. Particularly, it depends where you're at in value perspective, right? I'd said to people going into this week that people will still ask me about Lewis Hall. I was like, I think you're too late, because now it's hit like a value that's quite high at 5.1. We have to say, stop, is this right? Should I be looking at Livramento at 0.7 cheaper, for example? And also, how much are you actually going to invest 5.1? How much are you actually going to play him over the next 5 game weeks? Well, the answer is probably 2 at the most in most scenarios, right? Or over the next 6, probably, if you include this one. 50% of the game, so you can pay him 50% of the time. That feels like a lot to invest in, if that's then the circumstance. So I would consider selling that for those late on. For people like me who bought at like 4.4, I want to sit there and forget about it. But it's the same. I'm probably investing in 50% of the time. For me, who was a little bit later than others on Anthony Gordon, that's the first one that I'm potentially looking to cut, right? Certainly not desperate to cut it this week. It would be a -4 for me at this moment to cut it. So there's no intention to do that. But then afterwards, yeah, he potentially becomes expendable. And I know there's a lot of people going to look at Gordon to Bumo this week. I wouldn't put people off making that move.
Yeah, if I'm thinking about trying to play the game a little bit differently now, that move is well on the cards. Getting a Bumo in, yeah.
Spoiler for you, Suj, I probably need to completely ignore Brentford.
Because I can't, of your mental health this weekend, or
no,
or you can't afford it
for my mental health. I should put them in.
Yeah, probably true.
No, it's more for me when I look further ahead. Their fixtures are really rough from 29 onwards. I don't think I can afford to put in and come back out. But it's 2, isn't it? It's buy and then sell.
One in, one out. Yeah, you're booking in your transfers.
It's not to say that Bumo would have to be a sell-in game with 29. It's probably just for me. I've made the decision probably to take it on. And as kind of said, even if I had the luxury of a 3 this week, I'd be a bit nervous about buying Vissa this week. Anyway, that's obviously really off topic. Yeah, I think Gordon...
I was going to say, Southampton on the worst run ever in the Premier League. There's 2 points in the last 13 games. 2 from 36.
No, I think what most consecutive defeats is at least 14. I think.
Really? Okay.
I'm pretty sure Sunderland's around 02-03 lost like 14 in a row.
Wow.
I think there might be one that's more than that, even maybe. So that's not the worst run in Prem history. Yeah, I don't factually completely know what the answer is. It's a shame for them. Dibbling got injured, right? They were good at United. How much should we read into that? I don't know. But Dibbling getting injured there obviously wasn't particularly helpful to them. So that's the one Southampton player that was of interest. You
were saying about Gordon before I cut you off.
I was just going to say, I have an inkling that they might get something at Ipswich at the weekend. No, I was just with Gordon, just clarify, say, I understand if people cut that. I don't mind people cutting it a game early. Yes, you don't really want to sell a play like that when he's got a home fixture, and it's a fine home fixture. Fulham, obviously, a challenge. But I don't mind people cutting that a week early because I think inevitably those who are considering Gordon to Bumo will inevitably consider it in 25. So consider it now because Tottenham are way more vulnerable than Fulham. It kind of
Yep.
goes without
Well,
saying.
Wolves 0, Arsenal 1. There's only one thing. People, do they want us to talk about it? Should we talk about it? Red card in your eyes?
Red card, isn't it?
So, do you know what? It's an interesting one.
For João Gomez.
On Lewis-Skelly's one, I think I'm in the monitor. I'm like, okay, when you look at it, when I looked at it, first time I saw it, I was like, oh, it's a cynical foul. Is it a professional foul classified as? Because he's just taken the guy out?
I think there's a kind of confusion in terminology that professional equals last man. But technically, yeah, it's a cynical foul that's a yellow card all day, every day, isn't it? Right.
So if he had pulled his shirt or used his arms to hold him back and drag him to the ground, I think he would have got given a yellow card.
Yeah.
And because he kicked him and tripped him, it was exactly the same outcome as being pulled back. But the timing of it looked to me like there was absolutely no way he was going to get the ball. And I also, sometimes you lunge in and you think, I'm going to get the ball. It's so far ahead of him that when he lunged in, I think the only possible outcome in his head could have been, I'm going to trip him and take him out here. And if the ref's seen that and said that's a professional foul and sent him off, it's probably a yellow card. But I think Lewis-Skelly in his mind, he knew he was wiping the player out and it looked bad. So
I did think when I saw it, I was going to see the worst decision in refereeing history, the way people were going on about it. And I do think the yellow card would have been the right call. But I don't think it's quite as bad as everybody's made out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
For me,
I'm with you on that.
Like, it's not a red card, right? It should have been a yellow. But I don't think people have gone well over the top about it. I'll tell you what I think Oliver saw was clearly it's a deliberate foul from Lewis-Skelly. And by the way, we'd kind of probably arguably advise this with the counter-attack potentially happening, right? For an 18-year-old, like it or not, that's probably what you should do in that circumstance. I think what Oliver, and this is difficult to portray on the audio, but I think Oliver sees like his foot coming down. It's not like he tripped him with, say, the top of his laces going across him. He's seen the foot come down and potentially towards the back of his Achilles. Now, what kind of happens is kind of grazes like the outside of his shin, which is also pretty dangerous, by the way. But it's therefore lands like a trip. But I can understand the action of coming down on. It's not just an outward foot trip; it's the action of coming down onto the player. That's what I think Oliver thinks he's seen, and he thinks it's like on the back of the Achilles area, and therefore kind of similar to a Tom Cairney red card on Kulusevski in the Tottenham Fulham game back in December. If he had come down the back of his Achilles, that is a red card. I don't care where it is on the pitch. That's a red if that's what happened. That's not what happened. But unfortunately, he's given the decision where that's not what's happened. And VAR doesn't intervene because of the action. And actually, it could have, where he's caught him, it could have been bad. It wasn't, but it could have been. And this is the problem with the high bar, etc. It's interesting. We have people say referees aren't brave enough to make decisions because there's no VAR or intervene. And yet this is one where the referee, as you could say brave, but some people say stupid, whatever. He's deemed it, in his opinion, on one look, red card. It's wrong. But then VAR doesn't intervene because there's not enough there to conclusively say this is a 100% mistake. But I think every single one of us, near enough, if you take your biases out, would look back at that and go, yeah, a yellow's enough there, cancel that. But because it's not like 100%, VAR don't intervene. We are continuously, obviously, using the tool wrong. But I'd also say this is not one of them where I don't think it was the most outrageous decision I've ever seen.
I agree. I think you've worded it exactly my opinion on that as well. I looked at it as well and I thought, well, he's gone from there to completely wipe him out. And it's the Rodri foul or Fernandinho where they just kill it. But if you do it with your arms, you get away with it a little bit more than if you kick out, and it just looks way worse when you've kicked and tripped a guy like that than
Can I
pulled him
just
back.
say, if it was in the rules that we knew that that sort of challenge was a red card, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
A professional foul, cynical foul like
What
that.
I'm saying
Yeah,
is, if that incident had happened 10 times this season and it was given as a red card every single time, I wouldn't have a problem with that because it
yeah.
is that cynical.
It's
But
one of
yeah,
the worst.
it's
It's
not a
one of the
red.
fouls that drives me crazy when people do that, and I'd rather have that out of the game. So I agree with you, James. On the game, Arsenal obviously powered through, got the result. Saliba back in the team and picks up a 9-pointer, picking up maximum bonus points. David Raya as well with
If
a
I'd known he
9-pointer.
was going to play, there was no way I would have gone without Gabriel.
Right.
Didn't think he was going to play.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Um,
Mick.
well,
To be fair,
it was the three defensive Saliba, Raya, Gabriel that cleaned up the
to be
defense.
fair, let me
Bonus
clarify
points.
that because he did not rule Saliba out
Okay.
and he didn't rule Lewis-Skelly out either. He said like they'll definitely be back next week, but he didn't say they're definitely out this week, right? This is where people need to take the terminology correctly and understand the context. He said they'll definitely be back next week. He didn't say they won't play tomorrow.
They've got three. I mean, City at home now for Arsenal is an okay game next week, and then Leicester and West Ham straight after. So, not in a rush to come off any Arsenal assets, but I'm also not in a rush to add any at the moment. Would I like an attacking one for Leicester, West Ham? Sure, but I don't really know. I don't know who I'd buy, to be honest with you.
I have to say the me selling Raya for Pickford on Saturday night definitely wasn't. And I'm sick of Raya. I actually think Arsenal could end up keeping clean sheets in
All
sort of
three.
three of the
Yeah.
next four, for example. I really do actually. I think they'll have a good run defensively now. It was that was the easiest, most logical way for me from a money perspective, unfortunately. So don't follow that for the sake of following that, i.e. bin Arsenal, because I wouldn't defensively at the moment. Offensively, need to see more at the moment. They obviously could invest this week. That goes without saying. We know that they're trying to buy an attacking player. And Havertz looks particularly tight. Have you seen the clip of Havertz at full time?
No. Was
Kind of
he
collapse.
huffing?
Yeah. And listen, they obviously went into the game difficult circumstance. Obviously lost Odegaard and Marino through illness that morning as well. Big result for them, right? This is what teams going for the title do, right? You go somewhere like this, you feel like it's going against you with the red card incident. You get it overturned with obviously them getting a red card. But you know what? I wouldn't have been surprised if Arsenal won 1-0 anyway. What I saw and heard of the game is Arsenal were doing all right 10v11. Not dominating, but were doing like certainly in a position you could go, they might still win this. As soon as it went 10v10, felt fairly inevitable what was going to happen. So really well taken goal from Calafiori. I imagine, by the way, the Lewis-Skelly red card will probably get overturned.
Okay.
Do you think or not?
Well, look, the PGMOL had to issue a statement. Was it yesterday that Michael Oliver's getting like death threats and we don't condone it, and it's been reported to the police and stuff. There is always a little bit of optics and politics involved with this. I think that they will want to stand by their man, and as a result, I think they will want to stand by his decision. So whether or not, I don't think that the decision will be reviewed independently
I
of the
just
fact
think
that they want to support Michael Oliver and they don't like the way he was treated. So
and
I'm
it's not
50-50.
It's not just Arsenal fans who have been kind of saying this is a really bad decision. So I think when there's been a groundswell like that this year, they've generally changed. But yeah, I agree. There is something in it that because Oliver's the referee, you do wonder if they'll be a bit
Can't stick
tighter
with him.
about the decision. Yeah, it shouldn't be like that, but it does unfortunately feel like it might be. I think they'll get it overturned anyway, personally. Yeah, Arsenal I wouldn't be looking at this week. And I think it's Leicester, West Ham. Then there's a tougher run heading up to the
It
blank.
is.
So it feels like what they do in the window in the next week might be kind of definitive to what we want to do with maybe getting an offensive asset in. But it feels like it might be more on 29. They've got a good run after that as well. So yeah, not looking at anything new. Gabriel would still go nowhere for me. I'm almost pleased that he only got 7 points at the weekend because I was so scared about him and the amount Wolves concede from set plays. João Gomez suspended, which there is a key point to this, and it relates to Morgan Rogers. I've got Rogers sitting on the bench this week away to Wolves.
Yeah, me too. But that's the territory where he picks the ball up and runs and drives. You're right.
And
And
he's a brilliant ball winner, João Gomez.
yeah,
I mean, he didn't show that on Saturday so much, right? He can't complain with the decisions. Um, did you see Trossard? Because he got done for kicking the ball away, didn't he? Have you seen the clip
yeah,
of Clake's
yeah. I
posted
saw.
it
Yeah,
of Trossard saying, "He did it to me."
conspiracy theories and yeah,
But that is something to think about in terms of whether you
who you
start or
play.
bench
Yeah,
Morgan Rogers this
next
week.
week.
It feels like for Wolves, they cannot lose Cunha this week.
Yeah. Man City 3, Chelsea 1. Obviously, early lead for Chelsea. I mean, the defender, what's it? How do you pronounce his name? Kuzanov had a mare. I really was scared that he was going to get hooked after 15 or 20 minutes, James, because you never want to see that happen to a player. It just feels awkward and horrible. Kind of at least let him ride out till half time.
Yeah, and he did look like rabbit in the headlights, which made
It
it
was
wasn't like,
yeah.
or he's this big, powerful 6'5" giant or something. He
No, he
looked
was like
like
a
the ground
schoolboyish.
was, yeah.
It wasn't nice. But then City clicked into gear. I think almost Chelsea let them click into gear a little bit without trying to. They should have maybe been more aggressive with how they approached it, to be like, okay, you know what, we've got an opportunity here. This guy's on a yellow card. We've got a goal lead. Let's try and get 2 ahead or 3 ahead. And they purred back in. Haaland, golden assist. Foden now, first time he's scored in 4 games in a row. Ederson now on 2 assists for the season and 5 in his Manchester City career. Bonkers, this guy.
Just firstly on Chelsea, I think there was a lot of criticism of them on Saturday, and I feel like kind of rightly so a little bit, but I also felt that they were laying traps for City, which there's 2 points to this. One, very unusually, Cole Palmer got a pass wrong. Right, he's gone clean through at 2-0. And I don't know about anybody else, but I was absolutely certain he was going to pass it. And it was clear as day he was going to pass it. And at that point, you think, because it's so obvious, don't. Do you know what I mean? Just wrap it back near post and give the keeper the eyes that you're going to do it. And he always makes the right decision. And the passing, it wasn't the wrong decision, but it was the execution of the pass. It was so bad. That goes 2-0. Then we got talking about a very different football match.
Yep.
And I also think they found it a little bit tougher to lay the traps and then hurt City, who were vulnerable. So the more you draw City onto them, the more you'll hurt them. Right? We've seen this even in the easier games recently, where City have sat off a little bit more without the ball. You saw it a lot in the second half. City game, you go on, what you got. You want to draw City to you, because then when you play through the lines, then they're fucked. Okay, so it's not go like aggressive. You almost want to kind of reel them into the trap and then do them. And I think that it didn't work so well, partly because of Pep's tactics. And I'm not just talking about, long ball City. That's not quite what this was. They went to a real out and out 4-3-3. They played 3 central midfield players. Okay. Gundogan played to the left of Kovacic and Bernardo Silva played as the right. Quite a lot I've seen City recently. It's really felt like an aggressive high 4-1-4-1. This wasn't that. 3 central midfield players sitting, 2 fullbacks going really high in, obviously Vardiol and Matthias Nunes. And it meant that when there was a turnover, City structurally were much more difficult to then like counter on. So that's an improvement for City without the ball. And that might become more evident in some of the more difficult games that we see them having in forthcoming weeks. Because I, for one, certainly I saw Gundogan playing and I thought, I'm really, really surprised about that. But the idea then to get Marmoush off the left and Foden to the right worked nicely. Foden was just drifting so far off the right. And what Chelsea wanted to do tactically was try and take Cucurella with him where they could, unless they went too far. And Jadon Sancho was dropping into a left back position without the ball. So there was some interesting tactical intricacies in the game. I don't think Chelsea were as bad as some of the stuff I've read and seen. Once they went behind, you didn't feel like they were going to get back into it. They couldn't change the switch. And I think City were happy and obviously went direct. Ultimately as well, though, Chelsea have also lost the game because the keeper's made a clanger. And I'm sorry, I know it's kind
and
of...
he's getting a lot of stick at the moment as well.
The thing is, I don't it's kind of inexplicable that he comes out the box for that. One, it's the most outrageously quick forward over even just a couple of yards.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that you kind of double think it where you're going to be wrong. But he's not even close, is he?
No,
Then
he's more. He looked like he was lost in no man's land. It was neither near the striker, wasn't going to get to the ball, left the goal open. It looked bad, really bad.
yeah, it was yeah. He's not even close. Like almost if he comes out to the area and then Haaland nips it past him, almost forgive him as close, which is nowhere near. And actually, Chalobah doesn't cover himself well either, right? Because when Haaland's running away from goal and onto his right foot, like I personally, if it's me, I'd be overcompensating and saying, "Do you know what? You can take me on the outside because you're on your wrong side. I'll trust that I'll body you back in on the inside if you go. Don't let him come out on his left because then you're dead." And Haaland does take the goal really well. His hold-up play was really good. And prior to that, he'd made two brilliant runs from right to left before that one going left to right. So he was beginning to pull them. Chelsea had a strategic play to play like aggressive with a high line throughout the game. That largely worked quite fine. But on the three goals, it doesn't. Madueke gets disgracefully too deep on the first goal because he's getting really worried about chasing Vardiol because a couple of minutes earlier, Vardiol had got through 1-on-1. The second goal here with Haaland, and then the third goal again is Haaland, good hold-up play. Colwell gets a little bit sucked in with his eyes, and then obviously Haaland lovely into Foden, and you knew he was going to score when he went through. In fairness, there wasn't really a doubt about it. So deserved victory probably for City in the end. Both teams can do better. I think some of the criticism of Chelsea at the weekend was a little bit over the top. I understood some of the things they were trying to do. It just didn't work, many of them, on the night.
Let's talk about Palace, Brentford, and get into some of these Sunday games, James. We'll rattle through some of these as well. Palace 1, Brentford 2. Late goal for Palace, obviously, wiped out the clean sheet for Flecken for me, although he's missed the 3-pointer. He always gets a save point. And they do add up over a season, though. Yeah, I would rather a clean sheet. Felt pretty even from what I saw in terms of highlights and stats. Both teams' possession was like either side of 50. XG was similar. Both had a similar number of shots in the game. Just Brentford were able to finish, and obviously one of them being the penalty for Mbeumo, where he got a bit lucky, didn't he, to be able to retake it.
Yeah, lucky or unlucky, depending on how you feel as a Brian Boomer owner this morning.
Yeah.
Lucky because, yes, he's got a second opportunity from a penalty. Shout out to Visser and Keane Lewis Potter, by the way, who wheel away celebrating before he even kicks it the second time, which is interesting, psychological. That I don't think I've seen that before. Visser particularly is really funny on it. But he's got 7 points this week. He should probably have 9. So I'll credit Baker from Above Average FPOs tweeted this morning that Opta actually credited Bumo with missing a big chance in the 90th minute yesterday.
Okay.
Which is where the ball came right towards the back post and it came off the post and it was like, how didn't that go in? Opta credited that as a big chance missed for Bumo, even though Bumo didn't touch the ball. It came off Tyreek Mitchell's like chest/stomach area, hit the post, and then went away. Of course, Opta will redo that today.
But it's too late because the last game was yesterday.
And that will change the BPS, but you've got no Monday Night Football this week. Right. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. I'm not a Boomer owner, so I'm certainly not crying here, right? But I spoke about this a few weeks ago. We've got some games where BPS can be adjusted and some haven't, right? They need to change that, and they need to change that now. So it is 24 hours after the last game or 12 hours after the last game. Whatever they want that to look like, they need to change that because this is wrong. Technically, if there was a Monday Night Football match, Brian Boomer would be finishing this game week on 9 points rather than 7. That might be definitive to someone winning or not winning the whole game this year on a player that well owned. We had the similar one, I think it was with Anthony Robinson, wasn't it, a few weeks ago as well.
Yep.
So they need to change that like immediately. You can't
Brentford,
backdate the points,
now,
but they need to change that immediately.
Agreed. Brentford got a good run now. So anyone looking for opportunities, Brentford in kind of Visser and Bomo. Flecken's only 4.4. So if you have a keeper problem or something, maybe might Might be
Hold
something
up,
to look
you're not
at.
onto this like Fleck and Sells move anymore, no?
No. I left that 2 weeks ago.
Oh, right, you left that.
Yeah. Since then, I think Sells, he conceded two. Who did they beat 3-2 Forest the week before last?
Southampton.
Southampton. So he conceded two in that game and then has conceded five. Flecken hasn't kept a clean sheet in either, but still outscored him. So, now he's staying. And when he's playing your team this week, mate, can't be selling him before Spurs at home, surely. No, I think Flecken's all right.
Yeah, I mean, who's your other keeper? Flappy.
No, Valdemarson. So,
Oh, right, yes, doesn't matter. I mean, Flecken's fine for this week. There will be interest, Bumo Visser. I just have a little bit of caution about the window. I'm really suspicious about the Visser stuff and why it was made public. Someone thinks that deal was a possibility. And on the face of it, Forest bidding 22 million for Visser was never going to get the deal done. So why did it become public knowledge? Someone thinks it's a possibility. It's interesting. I'd just be a little bit cautious of that. Yet the time to buy Brentford is now.
yep.
It's Visser, it's Bumo. It's probably going to be relatable to what you want to sell. Yeah, time is now. If you've already got your Liverpool in place, I mean, if I was sitting there now with a choice of Visser and Die to buy this week, the only thing that would be putting me off going Visser would be the small chance that he leaves. And I think I'm probably even overdoing it here by even saying there's a chance. It's probably like a 5% chance. I would be going Visser over and Die if I had that choice this week and the money was available to me.
What's your thoughts on Palace? If the time to buy Palace was probably 3 weeks ago, wasn't it, really, before Leicester, West Ham, Brentford? They've got a couple of all right fixtures, but it does get tricky afterwards. And then this looming potential blank in 29. I kind of feel like, okay, Manchester United, Everton have been a bit better under Moyes. Manchester United is away at Old Trafford. Fulham is away at Craven Cottage. Villa, then after that, Ipswich good fixture, but then possibly a blank. I can't see Crystal Palace as a go-to right now with what they have up until the blank.
No, and I guess...
but also if you own Munoz or whatever, I wouldn't be jumping to sell them. I think Man United, Everton, they're fine if you already own, but I just wouldn't be adding.
Yeah, what's interesting about them is that the fixtures up to 28 are largely okay, right? I mean, there's a couple of Everton, Ipswich at home particularly stand out, some decent home games. But then interestingly, after that, after the blank, play Southampton away as well. And I wonder if that will suck enough people into wanting to hold their players through the blank. I think ultimately for me, it's like I'd rather hold the players who've got the value in for me rather than hold that. They're not going to go down as well. So we should probably mark them as like, what are they playing for a little bit? It's not to say they're on the beach or that they played that way yesterday. If you've got Eze or Sarr, I think your eyes are drawn towards Bournemouth, or if you can go up to Boomo, you'll be drawn to that. Or obviously Liverpool if you don't have a third Liverpool in play. Mateta, I'd be holding on to at the moment with them fixtures, and I'd be thinking, hold him till 29, I think, and then look at whether it's Wood, if Arsenal got a new attacker, Cunha, something like that in 29. He's the one I'd be quite keen to hold. He was the attacking player I didn't own this week. I was most worried about, actually. I'd probably be keen to hold on to him. Obviously, again, if it's Mateta to Gakpo, then obviously completely understand, make the move, obviously. Otherwise, yeah. It feels like you probably would have wanted to invest this week, ironically. What did you think about SA's knee slide?
Didn't see it. What happened? Did he slide and then fall over himself?
No, just they were losing, weren't they? I get it. It was Premier League debut. He scored.
First
I get
goal.
It. It's excited in the moment. Yeah.
First goal. To be honest, goal celebrations. I'm not the celebration police here, James. I just let people do what they want to do.
I was I was okay. I was more annoyed with the people in the crowd actually, in the shitty half weight stand who weren't like, "Get on with the game, mate!" Like they were all like sitting there like happy clapping and stuff as well. I mean, and I was like, "Get on with the game."
I think.
Tell him to get on with it.
You could say similar. Like we can jump back a game to the City Chelsea, and people were criticising Cole Palmer after the game because he was talking to Guardiola and he laughed and smiled and whatever else and stuff. All of that stuff. Yeah, all of that stuff. It's not my place to judge. Let him have a conversation. He's been his manager for years and years and years. So, no. Let's talk about
Go on
Go.
debut once, keep an eye on.
Yeah. Spurs 1, Leicester 2. Um, yeah.
You got any comments?
Jamie Vardy says hello.
Yeah,
He's,
Jamie Vardy always says hello to us, mate. That's nothing new.
mate, just I love him. Just the way he's pointing to his Premier League and all that. He's a shit, isn't he? In the
Yeah,
funniest sort of
but
way
in
possible.
fairness as well, like they were singing about his misses again yesterday,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah. Just give
inevitable.
it
If
back. I
yeah,
think
absolutely, he has
he he
every right to.
he gives it. I've never seen him particularly step over the line, but I think yes. Um, when I saw you put two Spurs in your free hit,
I had to.
I knew you were going to lose. It was just inevitable. I was like, oh. And then when I saw Madison wasn't in the starting lineup, I was like, it's all right. He'll come on for the last 15 or something and pick James up a return. And then I checked the subs bench and he wasn't even there. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Um, Look, Kinski, you could say was a little bit at fault for maybe the goals.
Of course, they ain't doing nothing else with them, mate. If
No,
that's
I get it. I
yeah,
mean, could he have done a bit better? I just,
I think
yeah,
like
I think
he made a great start. He's still young. Like, people saw him against Liverpool and it was like Vicario's never getting back in the team. No, I think we could still do with getting Vicario back personally. What he does deal with the corners much better than Vicario. But otherwise, yeah, I think we'd still be better off having Vic at the moment. So that's still a miss. But he's done fine, Kinski. He doesn't make me feel uncomfortable in any way, which is the first thing I don't. If you ever feel uncomfortable about your goalkeeper, it's a really bad place to be. And him going forward as like a number two, I'm very, very happy with that actually. Can I give Leicester a bit of credit first? Or I'll
I
never
think the
get a word in about him, mate.
problem about you guys was literally after you went 2-1 down, you didn't have the ability to
No,
ramp it up a gear.
no.
And I think you've criticised Son quite rightly. He's your leader, he's your captain, and he's not the one that I can see that will be able to rally everyone to be like, right, pull your socks up, roll your sleeves up, whatever the phrase is, let's get this shit done. Because that fight is just not there. Like, it didn't feel you were going to dominate the game and create chances, but not to the extent that you're going to bang on the door until it breaks down. Is how it felt.
Yeah. Let me come back onto him and others in a sec. Firstly, like congratulations to Leicester. They deserved their victory. I think if you watched the highlights that were shown on Match of the Day last night, and I understand that's probably what many of you would have maybe only just seen that, like that kind of painted a picture that Tottenham were dominant and Leicester had two breakaway goals in the start of the second half and won. And no, Leicester deserved their victory. We didn't really deserve to be in front at half time. They played some nice stuff. I don't feel safer about them staying up with Van Nistelrooy in charge rather than Cooper, because I think that Cooper had more ability to, say, win a game like yesterday, 1-0, for example, rather than have to come back from behind and win it. But they've got some talented players. El Canus, who scored the winning goal, played really well, floats nicely into half space areas. Vardy obviously offers the outlet. If it falls for him in front of goal, he's going to score goals. The two centre backs dealt with things pretty well. Justin and Christensen were okay. Goalkeeper did well in goal, but Harry Winks played really well. It's probably a state of where Tottenham are at the moment that we made him look really, really good, and Samari gets around the pitch really well. I think they'll still struggle to finish outside the bottom three, but they deserved their victory yesterday, and they've been on a really, really bad run. So congrats to them. On leadership, Suj, I've spoken about this before. You know why I put him in, right? In my free hit, Sonny. I
Because you
put
had too much money lying around and didn't
I,
know where to
no,
stick it.
no, but I didn't know, right? Because I didn't put Gabriel in my team, right? So it's not
True.
like I did. I could have gone, no, I'm not doing that. And I wish in hindsight, you know what it is? It was psychological for me. I've now got a free hit. I've got to attack stuff. What I decided I had to do. There was no way I couldn't attack something Tottenham, considering how shit Leicester have been recently. And Son and Madison in the first half in Germany on Thursday both played well. And Madison's numbers, the reason he's never an option in fantasy is like his minutes are too unreliable. It's like if he's going to play, his data is the best of all the Tottenham attacking players. So I was like, do you know what? It's 1 week. There's no way I'd buy him, but I'll stick him in. Sonny has a great historical record against Leicester. I put him in because I wanted to attack players that were like they could go off, not get me a return. Could they go off? And with Son, I've been saying this for weeks. It'll be like 2, 2, 2, 12. Like you're just hoping you catch the big one, right? That's what I was hoping to do. Also, I was hoping, really, because he did get me out of my chair last Thursday, and I was really pleased with him, as in a good way after his second goal in Germany. But you know what? If he saves this free hit for me, that's going to bring back some love from me to him. So I was going for that as well. And I knew,
it's like
literally,
when
the only
you're in
way
a
I would have put
relationship.
Son in is if he was playing Leicester or Southampton. Otherwise, there's no
You're
way
about to dump this girl because the relationship ain't going nowhere. You know, we'll go out for dinner one more time just in case I decide that I do actually like her. And then
Do you
the
know
dinner's
what?
shit.
At least he turned up because with obviously the injury stuff's well documented, right? Legitimately, I can put an 11 out positionally that definitely would beat the 11 that started yesterday. Absolutely no doubt about it. By the way, for James Maddison, and he'd obviously be in that 11 that would beat the team that started yesterday. One or two things has happened here. One, if he genuinely is like sore and he's I can't play, like get out my club, mate. Like it would be that strong from me. But I don't know if Andrew's thrown him under the bus a bit here. Like, because for all we know, he's like got a calf injury and like it's genuine and you can't play or whatever, right? But for him to say like he's just a bit sore, it's allowed people to have an interpretation in the middle.
Correct. Yeah.
Also, I tell you what I would say about James Maddison. He's not shy on getting on socials, and he hasn't. So I feel like if he'd have felt he needed to defend himself yesterday, because people are talking about it, like, hold on, you've got all these injuries, and one of your key creative player is sore and he's not played. Like that's made people ask questions. He's not come out on socials and like try to defend himself or anything. So if that's the truth, I can understand Ange putting him under a bus. If that's the truth, because we need help. It's clear. If he's not playing because he feels sore, fuck him. Like genuinely get out my club. But I don't think we can come to that conclusion yet because who knows? Maybe he doesn't play on Thursday, right? Yeah, this is a mess. You all know, right? This is legitimately relegation fight possibility. We have to accept that now, having lost this
I think the
particular
gap
game.
is still quite big. You need to see something from Wolves, Ipswich.
Well, Wolves will get results from sort of 27 onwards. I've been quite clear about that.
But I said it before the weekend, and I'm like, the problem you have now is teams are going to target you. It's like, okay, Spurs are, it's Spurs. It's an opportunity to get 3 points if we up our tempo and play an aggressive game. And when teams start targeting you like that, it's like you say about West Ham, it's our cup final. Everybody's treating you like that opportunity to get 3 points. Well, if we raise our game, we can get at these right now. Having said that, you did say earlier in the show that Romero and Van de Ven are training today and might be back at the weekend, and things might change a little bit. So look, no one's buying. I don't know if you're buying Spurs assets. You need your head check in, but
yeah, I would. This was the other irony, wasn't it? This time last week, you asked me about Tottenham assets, and I said, "Are you stupid?" And then, of course, I went and put fucking 3 of them in my team. I had to. I mean, Bergvall was obviously as a substitute was the third. It wouldn't have made a difference if he was first or second sub in the end. So, yeah, no, there's no way you should be looking at Tottenham assets. I know a few people have been asking about Mikey Moore lately. Like, realistically, when players get back fit, he's going to drop down the pecking order and stuff. He was fine when he came on yesterday. Again, do you know what, Suj? It's not that they're not trying, but it was really clear really early in that game yesterday that they were mentally and physically done. Like, I mean, 10, 15 minutes into the game, it was like, this is going to be, if you can offer me a 1-0 now, I'm going to take this and run. Because we started really slowly. I mean, perhaps Ange said afterwards, he said he shouldn't have played. That doesn't help. But then he's putting himself out there. I don't want to criticise him. He's putting himself out there, but Maddison's sword, do you know what I mean? Bissouma was a substitute, but he never used him. So he clearly is injured, basically. Like, why was he even named as a substitute?
Charlison felt his groin 10 minutes into the second half. So he felt it should have come off at half time, rolled him out for another 10 minutes.
The crowd booed like quite loudly when Richarlison was taken off. But these will be the same people that will say, "Oh, Ange doesn't protect the players." So you can't have it both ways, right? It's obvious to me. Richarlison played 55 odd minutes on Thursday. It's a similar total here in this one. With Solanke not being back till March, he can't get injured. He can't. Now he's taken the goal really well, by the way, but he can't get injured at the moment. So you've got to protect him. I completely understand that the taking him off. The crowd in the ground never turned on Ange. All the anger is towards the chairman at the moment, and that is the loudest I think I've ever heard it. And that goes back even to, I think, the protests about potentially moving to Stratford, going back sort of like 2011-ish, which really kind of split the club quite badly at the time. Yeah, the football club is just completely broken at the moment. I hope those two centre-backs are going to fix a lot. We don't know if they'll be available for the Brentford game. He definitely wouldn't put me off going investing in Bumo or Vissa because there's too much wrong with the rest of the team. Thursday's so important against Elfsborg.
Yeah.
Not because we've got to finish top. We need those break of those 2 midweeks in the future to kind of give us a chance in like the build up to the Manchester United and the Ipswich games. Would be really beneficial. So like Thursday, we've got to get we should be dealing with that obviously, but we need to finish that to have those 2 clear weeks. The midweek fixtures. I think on Ange, as I said earlier, he's got a lot of repairing work to do, and it's got to go extremely well for him to still be in the job next season. I'm pretty confident we'll get the cup games. If Tottenham don't have anything lined up to replace him, there is no point removing him, because I do still believe that the players are out there trying. Ultimately, the team isn't as good as everyone thinks it is when everyone is fit. And at the moment, it's broken. You've got people out there. I mean, Bergvall and Archie Gray again, 90 minutes again, doing as well as they can. Ultimately, it's not up to a required level quite yet. They'll be fantastic footballers for the team, but it's not at a level yet. Kulusevski was shot on Thursday. Yesterday, I don't think he should have been on the pitch. Ange said there was a couple of others shouldn't have played. I would bet money that he was one of them. He was so far off it yesterday.
I think you're talking me into buying Mbomo, James, for Gordon. You only need a draw on. A draw will be enough to get you top 8 on Thursday. So let's see how you get on with that. You don't think so?
No, it'd be close. Draw will be 50-50-ish. Win is obviously like a guarantee. Yeah, you would hope they could put themselves in a position, try and win the game early and kind of relax through it. The playing here rather than the travelling will help. I mean, just looked so fatigued. It's not an excuse, but yeah, they looked so fatigued, both physically and mentally yesterday.
Well, we'll talk a bit more tactically about it on Tottenham and our weekly show reviewing.
Tottenham you ain't turning up this week.
Yeah, Tottenham this week, but you can dive deeper.
I wish it was Tottenham and I could talk to you rather than Clayton. Clayton's got to sit there and try not to fucking laugh through it.
Well, let's talk about West Ham now. Then Aston Villa 1, West Ham 1. To be honest with you, after the first 10 to 15 minutes of this game, your Ollie Watkins shout on your free hit looked like it was going to come up trumps. Genuinely, after 10 to 15 minutes, I felt like this is now, I don't want to watch this anymore. I'll have it on in the background, but let me go and find something more interesting to do, like prep the dinner for the kids or something like that. But credit to West Ham for actually turning it around. In the end, we had 4 big chances to Villa's none and found a way to play, because I think when you saw the lineup and Kilman is flanked by Creswell and Soufal as his 2 centre-backs on either side in a back 5, that's not what you want.
That's why I went for Watkins.
That's not what you want. But the first 10, 15 minutes were difficult. There's no doubt about it, because Villa played with a pace and intensity. Like with Ramsey and Rodgers, you've probably got 2 great ball carriers and runners and getting on beyond, and Watkins' movement. I was like, okay, this looks, even Tielemans' linking up play looked lively. I thought, okay, this is going to be a difficult afternoon. But we found a way to deal with it. They obviously weren't helped with Tyrone Mings getting an injury and having to leave, because then Luca Dean had to slot into left-sided centre-back, and that gave us a bit of an opportunity. But Potter earned his money, really. If you think about how we played that second half, it was clear that I mean, he's a good manager and he can figure things out. It was nice to see the bravery of Soufal being able to overlap Wan-Bissaka, or Creswell being able to overlap with Emerson, and you shit yourself because it leaves Kilman on his own. But they were brave enough to be able to do it and find a way to get on the score sheet in the end, which was predominantly us trying to see if we can get crosses into the box and do what we can. Paqueta, yeah, when he wants to be, when he's in the mood, he's one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. He's just got everything about his game. And Wan-Bissaka had a great game as well. Really good considering that first 15 minutes. I think every West Ham fan watching that needed a new pair of underpants, mate. Villa will be disappointed that they ran out of steam and weren't able to push the advantage when they were on top. It's like if you mix the first half of the cup game and the second half of this game, we'd have done all right. So with the personnel that Potter has available, I think he was really good. And I think tactically he set us up well in the second half to go out and do something, which if that was Lopetegui, we'd have lost that game. Not even a doubt in my mind that we would have gone on to lose that game and not be able to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you got, if the game had continued till next goal wins, I think you'd have won too.
Yeah.
Which, yeah,
the momentum was going our way.
Considering the way the game started. And yeah, for me, Watkins, it was one of them again where it's like, and I know there was a few people even suggesting Duran would start. And I was like, okay, I'll take that risk because I know this could be a mega. And I wanted to pick players that could go off big.
Did you get home in time for kickoff?
No, I missed the first few minutes. Literally, that was it. And then
so you would have looked at it thinking, I'm going to get some points of Ollie Watkins here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's assisted the goal, and then obviously he had the good headed chance.
Yeah.
Obviously, a bit disappointed he went off like with half hour to go or 25 minutes to go, but also wasn't that shocked that happened under that scenario. I just really wanted to attack the fact that you was only going to play with one centre back, and he is not going to last with Watkins in a foot race if that's what happens. So there is definitely something to be said that the game got worse for Villa when he went off as well. Because his link play, he's running into channels, he's out there, all those things that he is, which Duran is just not that yet. Duran is super in front of goal, but all the other little aspects of being a 9, like it's night and day between the two of them as far as I'm concerned. Then the game started to go for Villa. Losing Mings was a blow as well. By the way, he tweeted last night and said, I've had serious knee injuries in the past. This isn't one of them. So that's good news.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing Luca Dean at centre-back is not ideal. Guess what happens when you ain't got centre-backs to choose from? Shit starts to go wrong. And I think that was you at the start of the game. And then you evolved where you got used to it and the system.
Yep.
And then obviously later in the game where you're under duress and, balls start going in the box and you're asking Dean to act like Tyrone Mings. Well, yeah, problems are going to happen. And the goalkeeper's like having some weird moments, like on the disallowed goal. I'd say what struck me, the biggest thing of all from the game that struck me was on the disallowed goal, was Potter's reaction. I'd never seen him like that. He was so animated. It was a massive criticism.
I think he is quite animated.
No, but it was a massive criticism at Chelsea, wasn't it? That he didn't show emotion. When he thought that was a goal, he didn't think it was offside, and he really celebrated.
Yeah.
He doesn't normally, does he? He's normally quite calm and keeps himself composed. So I think he's trying to immerse himself into the club, which I think's
it's great
thing. Yeah,
really good.
So,
Fabianski owners.
Yeah, we've been saying this might happen.
It was inevitable at some point. It was just very difficult to predict when. Now that Areola's in, I don't see it flipping back the other way, to be honest with you, for a little while. I think Areola will get a run. It will let him at least prove himself and see whether he's worthy of it.
I know someone will be in this situation now because I had enough people asking me at the weekend and enough times I said, please, I beg you not to do that. There will be people now, I've got like a Fabianski and a 3.9 goalkeeper.
Yeah, difficult. Find a way to make the move. Your inevitable move is probably someone like Flecken, who's below that 4.5. My biggest takeaway, James, was, and I've wanted to maybe think about Potter for the assistant manager chip because West Ham are low down and he's tactically shrewd and he might be able to pick it up for me. When Bowen's back, when Somerville is back, and maybe when he's got another centre back, which might be in a few weeks, because I don't think any of them are like months away. It's now low number of weeks away. he could be one that he's tactically shrewd enough to get you the bonus, whether it's a draw or a win. If you really fancy it, I look at that: Arsenal away, Leicester at home, Newcastle at home, 3 fixtures. It's really balls out, go for it. Or there's Bournemouth at home, Liverpool away, and then Southampton at home, 31-33 potentially. Where Bournemouth at home, they'll probably still be 5 places above us. Liverpool away, you're not expecting as much, but then Southampton at home to finish off with a banker. If he had a full squad, he's the one manager I know he's tactically shrewd enough to find a way to get a result in one of those difficult games. I'd love to play it on par. Plus, he's my own manager, right? So I'd get a lot of joy out of it. But that's my biases in there. So I don't know if I'd recommend that to anybody else.
So West Ham are 14th currently.
Yeah.
And I'd probably envisage you staying around about there.
Yep.
I think. It's not disrespectfully in any way.
Yeah, no, the teams above us, if there's a bit of a gap. It'd take quite a bit of
few injuries at the moment.
Consistency of results for 2 or 3 games. So, yeah.
Not great. Chelsea and Arsenal away 2 of the next 3, for example. So you're looking at the 5 places above. So 9th is Brighton.
Yep.
You've already played them twice. And then 8th is Villa. You've just played them twice. No, don't see it.
Yeah. This whole assistant manager chip, I don't really like it. I don't like it.
I don't we'll come back onto slots. We didn't really talk about it. I don't have interest in either of these 2 teams at the moment from a fantasy perspective. What I would say is Villa assets that you've got next 2, then I think consider selling, and that includes Rodgers.
Let's talk about Fulham 0, Manchester United 1. Disappointment for you with Castagne, I guess, replacing Maddison, and the fortunate deflection helping Manchester United and Martinez win the game and jump above us in the league.
Yeah, it was a sore one to go with my sore player who didn't turn up earlier in the day. This was a terrible game of football. From an entertainment value perspective. I enjoyed the tactical aspect of City, Chelsea, but I mean, the 3 games yesterday, I obviously not watched Palace Brentford, but I heard it was pretty shy as well. If you sat through all of that yesterday.
That had an XG of over 2. This didn't even get an XG of 1, James. I think it's like combined for the 2 teams.
Bumo's penalty
helps that.
So much of that.
This was like 0.92 total XG combined for both teams.
That's horrendous.
Yeah,
it looked like a 0-0 all day long. There was kind of glimmers that Fulham might equalise after United scored. But you know what? Generally speaking, United defended pretty well. I think what it is, reflecting on watching the game, I did a piece last week on Talking Tactics for our patrons about Southampton and Brighton creating their 12th man to create manipulation, the illusion that you're playing with 12 players, basically by moving players around positions. Fulham's 12th man basically is Robinson. Because as soon as they attack, he's on the left wing, right?
Down.
Just vacates the left back. That's where you get an Iwobi off the flank or Traore later in the game. That's almost where you're creating your extra man. The thing is, when it comes from a fullback and it's just going up the line, you can see it coming. If he's going into midfield, I'm like, where's he come from? If it's just, when they attack, he's just going for it, right? So you know how to prepare and defend for it. And I think that made the game easier for United. And obviously, because they're so often in a flat 5, like I never thought Diallo would play wing back because he'd be up against him in this one, that United could see the danger coming. And he largely dealt with it quite well. They defended pretty well, but you never really thought that they were going to hurt the other way. Højlund up front it's not it. Unfortunately, I was surprised Jimenez got taken off as early as he did. Muniz had some decent chances after he came on. It was just a really, really damp squib of a game of football. And I would not be looking to invest new in either of these 2 teams. I think like people will have looked at Diallo and the next 4 are really good, but I would be thinking way more about what I'm doing about one of them Bournemouth players at the moment rather than Diallo if I wanted to go and invest in new. Even if I already had one Bournemouth, I'd be thinking about a second personally rather than investing in Diallo new. So nothing overly that I'd want to get. It's not saying Diallo owners should sell, by the way, because Palace, Tottenham, Everton, Ipswich is a good 4. And then obviously Leicester in the blank is good coverage for that as well. So it probably is more useful for most people to hold on. This doesn't make me think I want a United defender. for me now, Castagne is a problem, Suj. Not in the sense it's a huge problem, right?
So low value, you can bench it,
No,
surely.
but for most people, their end game is 29. Mine now is 33. And by which point Kenny is probably back.
Yep.
So in a weird way, he maybe becomes expendable for me on the path at the right point. Like I said, I might even consider something like, oh, Colwell, as shit as he's been, they have a lot of decent home games up to that point where he might be more useful for me, even looking at like Castagne to Howson. There's
Have you
not
got the
many.
0.2 though?
There's not many. Well, I've got point 0.4 now at the moment.
Right. So
There's not
get it
many
done.
where I'd use Castagne. So I'd use him probably Forest at home 25, and then obviously in the blank, Tottenham at home. Other than that, I probably don't use him at all. Whereas I could use Howson away to Southampton, at home to Brentford across those 2 weeks, and he'll be more useful for me in other weeks, I should imagine. So that's a potential consideration for me. That won't be the case for many. If you're on Castagna or Anderson, I think you just leave it be. And their fixtures up to the blank are fine. The problem is from 30, like it's Arsenal 30, Liverpool 31. It's rough. So I don't mind Fulham investment on the path to 29. So like a Jimenez, etc. You're not doing it this week anyway. But I think if you're running through, you'll be looking to escape from it quite quickly afterwards. Of course, Robinson, for those who've got the value in, is obviously there's no way he's going to leave. Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people asking questions around Manchester United and concerns around Manchester United, but they've got the 3 points here. They'll keep chipping away. And it is what it is for them till now, the end of the season. They've still got Europa League, still got FA Cup. So
yeah, it was interesting how much the away fans were clearly singing Ruben Amorim's name during the game last night, despite the setback against Brighton the week before. I guess positivity after Fernandes' late goal against Rangers. And I watched the game on Thursday night. There was some good and bad in that from United. I think United fans are realistic enough to know where that they're at and the problems that they've got, and there's every chance that they can't go and invest in the transfer market. They're a really interesting one to watch this week, with the likes of Garnacho and maybe even Kobe Mino. Genuinely, there's a chance here that one of those two players could be on the move to comply with PSR in the summer. We know that genuinely United are in danger of not complying with PSR by the end of this season.
did you see Amorim throwing Rashford under the bus as well?
Yeah, he wants shot of him, doesn't he? So
AC Milan are here. Maybe that might be happening, but who knows?
The only thing that doesn't help people's interest in him, like if you want to get money for the player, but yeah, he's more problematic because clearly they are desperate to get him out of the football club. Before we do a couple of questions, you want to talk about Slot briefly because we didn't really.
Well, people have asked about Moyes. We talked about Moyes. Slot. If you haven't got your third Liverpool asset, I just think the potential for Liverpool to go big in the double game week for a player is bigger than for Slot. And I don't have any money.
I agree.
And I don't have any money. Like I don't have $1.5 million for Slot at the moment.
I also think with the City fixture in 26, like I would say, if we'd have been able to activate it in 23, Ipswich at home first, then the double, then Wolves at home. Yeah, I think all over it. Because the double is not great for Salah. And obviously there's a temptation for people, particularly I guess like yourselves, who've used the triple captaincy, who are thinking like, how much of interest should this be for me? I'm just massively put off by that City fixture. And I know that there's every chance people are going to maybe move it on. I mean, we've mentioned in the past about maybe going McKenna and like Ipswich against Tottenham. Ipswich ain't going to get a fucking bonus for that, the way it's going.
Yeah, it's true.
So like I've heard of people saying like, oh, I'm going to go to Iriola in 26. What, the week after Bournemouth have just played Southampton? Is that what you're targeting? So there's no bonus. We've got Wolves at home. I'm going to move to Iriola in 26. I don't understand that.
Well, the scores from the weekend, obviously, Moyes 19-pointer because he got the bonus and the clean sheet and the goal. Iriola got 13 points, but that's because they scored 5 goals. So he's picked up a point for every and a clean sheet. So he's picked up 7 points just from goals and clean sheet there. Slot got 10. They scored 4 goals again, James. So the high scoring has helped. Arteta was a clean sheet and a goal, 3 points plus the victory was 9. Guardiola, Amorim also 9. Howe Potter also 9. 8, 9 seems to be par for the course if you've won your game, and then a couple like Iraola and Moyes have gone off a bit bigger. 6, 6. If I don't fancy Slot, to be honest with you. I think it will be par for the course. I think you'll end up with 6, 7, 8 pointers maybe, but not the big 15 pointer or anything like that. I'd rather look for the bonus. I'd rather look for the bonus.
It definitely won't be Slot for me. Even if I decide not to use the triple captaincy, I won't be going on Slot now. If people want to, that's fine. I also totally understand that those with all the chips.
Well, you don't have the money, Jay. You'd have to be taking hits to get him in.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but I've never been planning to put him in anyway. For those who have all their chips and the availability to put Arne Slot in, that's fine. Do you have the 1.5 million spare? Is 1 point. Obviously, it doesn't cost you to transfer to put him in, but you need to have the 1.5 there. I think if I had all chips left, that's so comfortably triple captaincy for me this week. There will definitely be other good assistant manager opportunities. I don't know if there will be other good triple captaincy opportunities. It's all well and good, like we always do, to sit and say Haaland could have these two and Salah could have these two. Yeah, and around the periods of Champions League quarterfinals and semi-finals. Yeah, the logic has always generally been for me with triple captaincy. First good opportunity in a double that lands like this.
Take it.
Go. Yeah. I don't need to. Okay, because obviously I've got no bench boost, I've got no free hit. So I could leave it and I might make that decision, but I generally think it's more likely that I'm just going to get it done on Mo. I don't expect him to go batshit. I really don't. But I also don't think that he probably goes through the 2 games and doesn't score. And that's liable to put him on, I don't know, 12 or something like that across the 2 games or something. That'll do.
Yeah, agreed. If you can get to double figures, it's a win. Cool. Let's do a couple of questions, James. We've been going for quite a while, so we will need to wrap this eventually. Origi with the chance says, what is more likely to happen? City finishing above Arsenal or Arsenal finishing above Liverpool?
Arsenal above Liverpool.
Do you think so? You can't see City catching Arsenal now. There's less points between them.
City will continue to have inconsistencies. I'm absolutely certain of that. With Liverpool, I think the big period is the next 3 away games, Bournemouth, Everton, City. If they do really well in those 3 away games, then it is very difficult to foresee them not winning this league. But I still see vulnerabilities in them. I would certainly add that the performance, I know it was against a weak opponent on Saturday, but they played like what they are, which is the best team in the league. They very much look like that. But I still see vulnerabilities in them that I don't think like often we get to this period of the season and we've seen this so many times with City where they've just gone win like 13, 14 games in a row. Like, I don't think this Liverpool is going to do that. I think they will have slip ups along the way. The problem for Arsenal is they can afford very little else now. They've got to put that run together. And with them, you're more questionable about what they're doing at the top end. If they face, like, when they go to Forest in 27 and they're desperate to get that first goal, do they overcommit and leave like Hudson-Odoi and Elanga on going the other way and stuff like that? So at the moment, you'd have to think, I think that Liverpool are probably going to go on and win it. But I think these next 3 away games are critical. Bournemouth away is such a tough game at the moment, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
They're flying. They've got nothing to lose, Bournemouth.
Agreed. Ryan Kettlestring, morning, Suj and James. What would you do with Raul Jimenez? Leaning towards sell, but I can only go down in price from him as I want to get Gordon out from Bomo's appointment with Dr. Tottenham. What's the price difference between him and Ilman and Dye? Would that give him any money in the bank, James, if you were going down? I feel like it should. Raul is 5.6. And Dye is 5.4. So that gives you a couple of pips there. It's useful. I think I'd go Ilman and Dye. I just run the risk. Like, it's a double game week. If you want to have a bit of fun with this game, you've got to do it once in a while, haven't you?
There's a few Evertonians would question whether putting an Everton attacking player in your fantasy team is fun.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Chris Randall, question for you, James. If offered now, would you take any or one of the cups if it meant relegation?
No.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Relegation could be, you'd come back up straight away, but it's just not necessary. It's too
Look,
much.
I'll be honest. I thought about it a bit last night, and I thought,
Oi, oi.
yeah, no. Well, I just thought about it from the perspective of like the away days. Go to loads of places, I haven't been to. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The away days would be absolutely brilliant and stuff. It'd be fun. And the chances are, yeah, I mean, we're not. Other big clubs who've gone down have walked into financial difficulty. The one thing for us is there would not be any financial difficulty, and obviously there's a load of players would get sold for a lot of money and stuff as well, right? So, I mean, Tottenham would be pretty drunk not to come straight back up, but then we are drunk. And you think, well, maybe I might get to see a trophy next year, but no. The priority has to be staying in the league. I don't think it's not a desperate scenario. But I think if we get through the next three and we haven't won, and then we're dipping under 1 point per game, then 100% you have to say that we're in it. When you're above 1 point per game, you're never in it. Really, we're on what 24 from 23, I think.
It's
So
getting
we're
close.
not. Yeah, but of course, that's what I'm saying. So if we go across the next three and we lose all three, which would include what losing to Ipswich on the path, then yeah, if we're on 24 points from 26 games, then no matter how big we are, there's no way you could say that we're not in it. We absolutely would be. I'm hopeful that there's a few players coming back, and I do still think realistically we probably only need to win about 3 games, and I'm pretty confident that we will.
Do you want to add the question in from Blue Sky or uh, not? Your
Yeah,
choice, sir.
let's just finish with this one from Gareth Streamline FPL. If you were to choose 3 players from Bournemouth, which 3 would you pick?
Money, no object.
Money, no object,
Kluivert,
but consider the value as well.
Kluivert, Ouattara, and Kirkes. But I think if you had to go Semenyo and Howson in place, it's not a big deal. I do like your argument on Howson over Kirkes if you needed to save some money there. And I've gone Ouattara over Semenyo because I'm splitting the positions out. So 1 forward, 1 midfielder, 1 defender. But if you needed 2 midfielders and you're picking Semenyo instead of Ouattara, I don't mind that. But I would get Kirkes, Ouattara, and Kluivert as a 3 if I could.
I think for me, considering the values at the moment, Kluivert, Ouattara, and Howson at the moment, thinking up towards 29. Ouattara might be a problem for me that I might need to. I've generally when it's this close between the players, like I'm going to pick Kluivert over Ouattara. I
Yep.
think is the most likely for me. I'll throw Kepa in as well as a good option. He's someone that I might end up looking at as well, particularly if you've got in a rotationable as well, right? You might look at things like Brighton away and think, well, I don't want to play Kepa and House, and then fine, don't. But then the week before at home to Wolves, you might want to play both, and they're at that value that you can do that sort of thing, subject to where you've got. So I don't think Kepa should be discounted as an option either. It is interesting that Semenyo feels like the third best attacker now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's been
Yeah.
so popular all season.
Yeah.
He's really
And he has
interesting.
returned the last couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, he's
So,
not doing bad at all.
yeah. Good. There we go. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Planet FPL, and we'll be back at you throughout the week with content. We didn't tell everybody what they got to look forward to, James. Do you want to just give it a rundown now?
Yeah, should have done that about an hour and a half ago. 2 COTCs for you. Everton versus Liverpool. Sean Norton, Dan Lord tomorrow. Chelsea, West Ham Thursday. Gary Mantle, Chris Stone. Clayton and James show Wednesday. Ask James Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Podcasts this week include Q&A today, Tottenham Ask tomorrow, UCL Fantasy Wednesday, Thursday. What are we doing Thursday this week?
Money in football?
No, me and Clayton's doing transfer.
Yes,
show.
transfer window show.
And
Kind of a Money in
Friday,
football. Yeah.
Friday is Game Week 24 preview.
Lovely, jubbly. As James mentioned, head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL if you want to support the show. But other than that, thank you again for listening. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you may be listening, and stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Do, please, be careful when you press those buttons. Cue music, please, Matt Child.